G'day guys, another day, another annoyance, another whatever. I'm spitting on my damn microphone. Bit of a cold, whatever. Need to stop doing all these late walks or shit like that. Or is it actually scented? Not even fucking scented properly. Yeah, I haven't even brushed my hair because I got out of the shower. You can see I look like, look at all that hair up there. The hair behind here, thick as. I look like fucking Frankie, gone feral. In old age, 55-year-old goes feral. Yes, I've sort of, and let's not forget all those repeat. Look at all that thick hair, all those repeat fans out there. Fuck, carnivore diet can't give you thick, long fucking hair, can't it? Oh no, fucking can't do that. It's impossible. So let alone, I mean, because look. When you have multiple, it's like the Pottager's cat. Multiple generations of deficiencies and all that is going to bring about certain issues. That's true, and that's why we don't see it in ancestral communities. We don't see baldness, but Bart, other people like that. Why? Because basically, my cousin Harry, fucking hell, this is on Dad's side of the family, and he's got massive receding hairline, all this front part, it's really thinned out. My father's got sort of had thinned hair, but it's actually coming back now that he's on eating more meat, which is really good, and eating more eggs. So the biotin, the all the those fat soluble vitamins, all that sort of stuff really builds stuff. And I actually basically, let me just share my 23andMe, because I was actually looking at a couple of things today, non-related to this, but I mean, just because people, this is my 23andMe, Harry's genetics, 55% chance of baldness. So basically you'll have a bald spot. 45% you'll have a bald, these sort of, so I'm in that sort of, they're looking at these different sort of black, dark hair, yeah, okay, that's a given. And then when we look at dandruff, yeah, it used to be a big problem in my past. I really struggled with dandruff. No more. You can see there's no dandruff in there, no white stuff. So that's since, actually, it wasn't actually even on the carnivore diet. Actually, to be honest, from even when I started doing keto, low carb, and really cut out all the sugars, is when really my dandruff went away in that regard. Early hair loss, 70%. And I can attest to that with some of my own relatives. My uncle Nick, Dad's younger brother, he's pretty much of that way looking. So, but he eats sugar. He just fucking eats sugar like there's no fucking tomorrow. So it's not surprising that he basically lost all his hair on sugar. Oh, the Ray Pete style. That guy is completely and utterly fucking degenerated. He won't even come on any live stream. He just basically does an audio, and he can't, and he's incoherent because of all the brain fog and all the other damage that he's caused to himself. He's a wreck. He's got no arguments whatsoever. All these sort of finger things, freckles. Yep, I do get freckles, unfortunately. Not as bad as I used to. You can see I used to get quite a few freckles on my face, on my skin and all that. So, all these areas, so let me just remove that. All these areas, I used to get freckles. I don't anymore. You can see my very youthful skin when you see it from close up. Down there, none of these sort of wrinkly sort of stuff, because unless you come close, you can't actually see it. See my chest, none of these sort of, I'm 54 years old, had a heart attack a decade ago, so I'm not doing too bad. Am I, your Ray Pete fuckwits and everybody else out there, your veg tarts and whatever else. So, I mean, I'm not claiming any special magical stuff. No. I'm not claiming any of that sort of stuff, but I'm saying that if you do a mixed carnivore diet with crustaceans, so you get all the minerals, because you need minerals for your hair, you need minerals for all these sort of things. You need biotin, you need the organ meats because they're high in biotin, or eggs. You need the cholesterol, you need all those sort of things, precursors. Most people, when they do a very low protein, really low shit sort of diet in that regard, that's where they really get into trouble. It's really low nutrition. And what the repeat guys do is they actually eat meat. They don't eat poofer. They eat meat. And all that. The only component is they do a mixed diet. So that's where we have a difference of opinions. But all the other stuff is good, where they're getting a lot of good, high quality nutrition, which is sort of combating sort of stuff. But when they go too high on the sugar side, which is what a lot of them do eventually, because their champion repeat tells them to, and as a consequence, they really go off the rails in many different ways. Anyway, so let me just start from the beginning. Good to see you, Daniel. Off to the farmer's market? For fuck's sake, T1. Get yourself organised. You do whatever you have to do, mate. Good to see you around, mate. Good to see you. Bellbird, good to see you here. My T2. You troll those fucking veg tarts. Make sure you give them hell. I'm living out of liver. Thanks. Good. Liver's got copper. It's really good for you, for, iron metabolism, all these overload that people make a whole lot of fuss around, gets a bit of more liver into you. None of us are suffering from iron fucking overload or anything like that. So, be more ancestral. Steak only is not ancestral. Believe me, it's not, So, and people need to sort of listen to their body, listen to the feelings of their body that are emanating from their body and what their body's actually telling them. Next week, I am getting a haircut. I've had enough. It's just become too fucking unmanageable. So you will see it short because I've had enough of it. I can't be bothered washing it anymore. It's just, I'm over it. I'm over the so-called, long hair, youthful look. That can go get fucked as far as I'm concerned. It's too much of a hassle to fucking get up in the morning and actually have to wash your hair each time, so got better things to do. Love how half of everyone here is just starting their day and the other half is winding down. Yeah, look, different parts of the world. That's the Australasian crowd are just starting their day, or, and everyone else is in North America and they are in the late evening. We'll eventually get Jared here. He's not too far away. I sent him a link, so it will be good to see him. Okay, Harry, enough. Is prize enough? Sheared Scotch fillet steak. Oh, yes. Actually, I had, after my long walk yesterday, we did an AK walk with my mate, Sean, and then when we got back to his place, we had a nice barbecue, and those steaks. We had 2.5 steaks each, really big, nice rump steaks with a lot of fat on them. So, and they were basically, really good quality Tasmanian stuff, so it's no shit from interstate. So in that regard, so it's all grass-fed down here, pretty much grass-fed is very, there's no money in it to basically bring grains, let alone we can't get grains here. And if you get sheep from like Central Highlands, fuck, all the grass up there is all this short, really rough grass. I mean, the only thing they do say up there, they basically grow sheep, and rocks. That's what they grow in that area, So it's a very productive area for rocks. So you get all these really hardy grasses, which are very high in omega-3s and vitamin D. So yeah, it's really good quality. So it means that the yellowness of the meat is really fantastic. So we're really privileged down here in that regard. So not complaining. Yes, but then again, I love my pork. So not as much as Dad. Oh God Almighty, he nearly has pork nearly every day now. He's, but he grew up on that, because he used to do larding with his mother and stuff like that when he was young, and he just, used to help his old man sometimes, do all the slaughtering. That's how he learned. That's how I learned, because he used to take me as a youngster to slaughter animals and teach me the techniques. And now unfortunately, most of my fucking friends want me to do the job, then basically to carve it all up and all that, because they're hopeless in that regard. But anyway, so I turn up and have to do most of the work, which is not always amusing. So I stopped doing that, and I told him, nah, it's going to be barbecue. It's going to be steaks. I can't be fucked doing that. So nowadays, but we do mix it up sometimes. I mean, sometimes we'll actually get different types of seafood, especially, it'll vary. I mean, sometimes it's different crustaceans primarily, whether it's shrimp, sometimes it's even, we may even boil, like some of the mussels and stuff like that, oysters. So there's always different options. I mean, we haven't done that for a while now because of the lockdown and all that sort of stuff. It's limited the sort of crowd that we get together. So it's only usually me and Sean do a bit of a walk. My mate David is trying to, occasionally, because he was going to turn up at some stage, but didn't happen. I don't know what, what's happening with him at the moment, but so he's trying to get back to fucking Thailand and he can't. So it's a bit of a problem. And his partner, she's basically broken out in what's it called? The chicken pox, shingles, from the stress, because she can't see her son. She misses her son. So she's really, because he's over there studying at university. So yes, the problems people are having due to the lockdown. And then Melbourne exploded recently. It's in a mess. So more people coming down with the coronavirus. They allowed more people to come into the country, and that's probably the vector of the new groups. So the government's gone crazy again and panicked and gone, oh, it's the end of the world. Yep. Everybody up in Canberra slashing their wrists. They're just fucking crazies. Anyway, I mean, now that we know, you get ionophores to basically deal with the respiratory infection. You can use vitamin D, good quantities, to basically minimize, the cytokine storms and all this. And a lot of this information is now coming out. Why aren't these fuckwits? They're so committed to their broken ideology, and they know that most of the people out there have got half the IQ levels, and that's the problem, because try and explain it to the buffoons is how they are. This is how they think. I don't think people are like that. If you explain it even somebody that doesn't have a lot of literacy, if you explain it in a plain English form and simple form, people understand. They're not that stupid. Yeah, there's a couple here and there, we call them vegans, but, the majority of the population isn't. Yeah, but unfortunately, it's just, let's destroy the economy a second time around. Wonderful, Anyway. Bathroom intrigues. It's called waking up late, getting on Bart's stream. He's at stream running too late, and then running in to have a quick shower, a shave and a shower, and basically going, oh fuck, and just really towel wiping it all down, and it's rough. And I said, oh yeah, fuck them, let them see what it really looks like, how bad it really looks like, and why I need a haircut, So got to be sorted. Yes, because I can't look like an anal boy. Actually, I used to grow my hair even longer than this when I was young. Fuck, down to my back here, long hair, and mine gets a bit. It's wavy. It's not. It's not. So it gets a sort of. It has a lot of waviness to it and a bit of curls and stuff like that. So it's a mixed sort of bag. My older sister's sort of, hers is more straight. My younger sister's really curly and she really straightens it out, and I'm somewhere in between, sort of a curly and a bit of straightness, and it's all over the place. And I go, oh. So I usually just brush it back, but normally I just cut it short, But now with the lockdown, for 4 months I've said, oh fuck it, I'm not going to bother. But now it's getting really out of hand. As my mate said yesterday, fuck mate, you look scruffy. I go, yeah, I know. I need to do something about it. I'm sick and tired of both washing it and trying to keep it looking straight and looking proper. Anyway, I usually keep my brush right next to my computer, so when I have to do an online thing, I like an online meeting, I sort of brush it really back, make sure that it's all flat and all that, and I go, yep, now I can go on, so I don't look too scruffy for work colleagues or other custodians that I may be interacting with. Yes, as one would know, even though I'm working from home, you still have to present yourself in a half-decent way. We had rain here. Yeah, same. It's sort of on, off all day. It's sort of miserable. It's really cold as well. I'm glad I did my long walk yesterday, and I did, so I probably don't have to bother today. If it sort of clears up later on towards lunchtime, I may walk over, have a coffee with Dad. If not, I'll just give him a call, find out what he's doing, and leave it at that for the week. So anyway, see you, Augusto. Oh, you still staying? Yes, I hope you stay. But that's a long hello. Yeah, isn't it incredible if you don't brush it? Really goes permy. Thanks, Harold. Oh, look, I've got one person that really likes it. Yeah, pretty much. Yes, pretty much that sort of look. Probably half the erratic brain. I'm not as erratic as he is. Thank you, Tracy. Appreciate just attending for a few minutes. Yes, I could throw a bit of paint down on the floor, and sort of lube myself and sort of stretch myself and stuff like that. Talk about stretching and fatness and all that. Actually, the funny thing is, a mate of mine, there's a new joke out there for people who are overweight now, with all the sort of the different sexual stuff that now they're coming out with, sort of really anti-fat shaming and stuff like that. And now they've got, if you're fat, you say, what was it again? What did Sean say? Oh, fuck, I can't remember now. God, something slim. Trans slim. Okay. So if you don't identify as a fatty, you're a trans slim. It's a new joke actually going around. I think it is. I hope it is. Maybe Tristan will take it up. You know, he's a trans vegan, he's, you know, and all that. Maybe he'll take that persona as well. He likes those sort of ways. Yes. He's a very malleable man. At least if you are bald and have a nice head shape, you are still winning. That's true, Tracy. That is true. Yes. But I'm bald when I shave off my grey feathers. Yep. That would do it. It definitely would do it. Yeah, it's what it means is you're more like for candida and fungi and stuff like that. You're a bit more. You got genetics which make you a bit more vulnerable. That's the only thing, you know. So yes, it is fungal, but it also there are genetics that actually make you more vulnerable. But if you're eating a species appropriate diet, you shouldn't have dandruff, you know. But if you're eating too much sugar, you're actually more vulnerable. Obviously, you know, that's why you have variations in the severity of dandruff between people, you know, on the standard diet, so to speak. So there are some genetics there, but it's not a major thing. They over exaggerate on these sites because it's a way of, like, you know, selling their products and stuff like that. But when it comes to baldness, there are clear genetics for that. You can either have certain things turned on or turned off in terms of the genetics. So, yeah. Richard said, that guy's a British chemist. Okay. Sorry, I was thinking of Pollock, you know, the artist. Oh, well, I have an artistic streak, you know, so my mind went there. So yes, in that regard. But, you know, at the end of the good nutrition, healthy nutrition, good nutrition is really the staple strength for health. So I just turn that WT because there's Luke, moderate, please. So I don't have to do moderation. And yes. Nice style. You're stylish then, mate. Sardines in a tin can, maybe a problem depending on oil types. Yep, that's true. Yeah, better water. Yeah, get them in water. Yeah, oils are fucking problem. Even if they're from the animal, you know, they've actually added it back or from other fish or whatever. Nah, it's too problematic. Give them hell, T2. Yeah, overrated. Look, there are people that have got genetics. It's a small group, you know, that basically have got genetics and are more susceptible. But they could actually improve with more copper. So those people tend to require more copper, so more organ meats to moderate, to bring down this sort of issue. You know, they definitely don't do well on a steak-only diet, those who have got genetics. So, yes. Oh, well, I hope you don't have bad genetics in that regard. Can be a bitch otherwise. Yeah, look, so I wonder what is the benefit of composting if all the GMO crap also gets back into the soil. Yeah, look, can be an issue. It's your sourcing. See, my dad's got his veggie garden because he basically he's more low carb, so he still eats some vegetables. It's just the way he's been, he has dropped quite a bit of vegetables in recent, and he said, look, I'm going to give up on nightshades. So he's moving away from nightshades. I've convinced him. Thank the fuck for that. It took a while. So he will grow other things. He grows a lot of herbs, which I do get a few herbs from him because they're all fresh herbs, and I don't mind, cutting them and throwing them into a meal, because I see herbs not as food, but as medicine, a bit of hormesis. Having them a bit now and then is not a bad thing in my book. But sometimes I haven't had any herbs now cooked because I could be bothered for at least a month. So I may go around. Dad forgot to bring some around, so I haven't bothered. Yes, that is bad stuff, soy oil. It will turn you into an alien or to one of those 480,000 extraterrestrial humans. You could elevate yourself with Soylence. Good one, folks. Throw a vegan shrimp on the barbie. Serious? With all that, it would, all that green stuff would come out. It would really look bad. Can you imagine trying to clean up the barbecue after that? T2. T2, are you going to take that? The feeling when you have a massive chest pump that you can hardly reach your back to stretch an inch. You be doing more of that exercise, Luke. What's Bart got you doing? Yes, I'll tell you one thing. I will miss seeing Bart on the interwebs on YouTube for a while. So, but he needs a break. I'm sort of lucky that I just do these weekend. I just do 1 day a week. That's it. And occasionally I may put something out there. But, this is the major point of interaction with my followers and basically the world. And it actually suits me. I've got my day job. I don't have the time. And I do know that some people have emailed me a number of things. I've answered a couple people, but I haven't answered everyone. So expect an email response next week. Won't be happening today. I've got other things to do. And yeah, I'll get back to you about some of that sort of stuff. There is one video that I do intend to make this month, and that's on mitochondrial health, and actually really go through and explain, because a lot of people have got things like chronic fatigue, brain fog, brain issues, or stuff like that. And it's really fundamentally, it's basically a deuterium issue, and it's basically a mitochondrial issue. And there's underlying things that have been done in the past that have affected people's state. And there is a protocol that I believe in sort of reversing that. And it's a stage-by-stage protocol. A lot of people think you can do certain things, and a lot of the naturopaths out there are pushing certain things and products and stuff like that. And all they do is, when you've got damaged mitochondria, you need to repair them. You don't need to basically overload them and force them to try and do more work, is what these people are recommending, and telling people to up this or that or whatever. It's like, what I said about David Sinclair ages ago. I said, he got in very early, and so he got the benefit of that. But if you're later and you've got damaged mitochondria and all that, if you try to push NAD up through that, all you're going to do is just increase reactive oxygen species in the electron chain. You're just going to fuck things up because your nanomotors aren't working. So you're going to put everything out of whack. You need to resolve the underlying issues. The underlying issues in most people are, it's a question of the water, the metabolic water quality, and basically light. That's really what it is fundamentally. Good to see you, mate.
I knew you had me right away. Hey, Harry, I just got home. I just wanted to drop by and let you know right away that I'll be by in like 20 minutes.
Okay. See you soon.
That gives everybody in the chat time to prepare.
Yes, it does. Back to where I was. Yeah, so that will be happening this week. And so basically that is in the works currently. So, because fundamentally it is a mitochondrial problem. For most diseases, it is basically a mitochondrial problem. Taking extra thiamine or taking extra this or taking extra that or taking this or this supplement or zinc or copper supplement or whatever, at the end of the day, if you don't fix your light issues and your water issues, you're not going to fix anything. You're just going to continually, over time, deteriorate, fuck things up further, overload things further, waste a lot of money on useless supplements without really fixing the problem. So, if I could actually fix everybody in the colder climate, I would translocate them with like using, let's say, Star Trek technology and move them all to the tropics for a couple of months and feed them a species appropriate diet in the tropics and keep them away from all blue screens and stuff like that to basically fix their circadian rhythms and stuff like that and fix up their light issues. That's the thing that I would do to bring a lot of health back. And so that's what I'll be going through. It's not going to be a sciencey thing. I will do those other sciencey things in the future for people that want, but most people don't watch them. Whenever I do a science thing, I get 100 views. So decided, I know the science. I don't need to explain the science. Somebody wants to go and do your own fucking research. What I will do is I will use the science and then apply it as applied science and provide people with, and I think that's a better way because it's actually easy for me as well. I don't have to get all this science and put these studies up and all this sort of shit and play the sort of like a lot of the other YouTubers do, or the Thomas DeLauer type approach. I've got this new study. This rat is incredible. Stuff like that. I'm not interested in that. That's just bullshit. What you want to know is how is it applicable to your own health? How can you fix things, make things work properly, improve their functionality of your body? That's what you really want to know. And that can be done in plain English to explain how to do these things. I don't need to basically point out and say, you're doing this wrong, you're doing this wrong, you're doing this wrong, you need to take this supplement. I have a good new supplement for you. Stick this up your ass and it will make you become Superman. Fuck me. So, or get my box of goodies. It's not going to help you. Not going to fix things. I'm actually dealing with a couple of people, which I'm very selective, which have got intractable issues, really severe issues. One lady's actually deteriorated completely. She had cancer a couple of times, destroyed completely her mitochondria. And then another guy with mental issues and all sorts of other things. So these are the sort of really, things that basically everybody else has given up on, pretty much, on these people, and I'm sort of their last hope in a sense. And so this is why I'm going to do this video, to really provide people with information, really basic information of how to fix the mitochondria and the stage by stage that you have to go through. Something that I've been wanting to do a long time ago, but I actually want to do it in a sciencey way, and that takes a very long time to put together. And I've realized in recent times, interacting with these people, that there's a lot of people out there that need help. And what I'm doing and giving us sciencey things, I'm doing everything like the other YouTubers. I'm not really helping people, explaining it in plain English so people can get it and people can resolve issues in their lives and stuff like that, fix things that can be fixed in a sense. And so I think I'm gonna focus, like Bart sort of rethought his own focus. He needs a break. He definitely needs a break. I've had chats with him sometimes, Skype chats, and and he's sitting there, talking shit sometimes. But at the same time, he needs a bit of a break. And it's exhausting when you have to deal with YouTube and all the other all the other shit that takes place, and you go, fuck, do I have to? Believe me. And so I want to basically get back to basics in a sense myself. If somebody wants to, because you want to learn how certain things work, go and actually learn, and do it yourself. 99% of people just want to know what to do to fix their health. And that's where my focus is going to be, to try and help the 99% that basically want to get their health back, that want to sort out, intractable issues that they've got in their life, want to reverse cardiovascular disease or this or that or whatever. That's more important to me, and what really works and what really doesn't work. So that's going to be my future type focus that I'm thinking of, approaching things, because if I go too sciencey, I end up sounding like Jack Cruz, and nobody understands what he's talking about. And that's a problem, because when he talks about, light and its interaction and its effects on the mitochondria and those mitochondrial folds that are in there, and stuff like that, he doesn't explain it exactly what it is. Well, it's basically your key melatonin production. And if you're not getting the right sleep and all that, you're going to be fucked, So this could be explained in plain English. And as I said, most people think, oh, the pineal gland. No, the pineal gland has just got more folds in its mitochondria. That is why it actually can generate more fucking melatonin compared to other tissue. But all tissue basically produces it because it's produced in the fucking mitochondria. Nobody tells you that. They've done experiments where they've cut out the pineal gland in the past, and they know that. But most people aren't aware of it, because it's so fucking confusing. Got all these fucking gurus that want to sell you something we can enhance your pineal gland or whatever. So this is what shits me most of the time, because I get people that have become train wrecks by going down that path, and they end up at my doorstep because there's nobody else out there that's really providing them with any useful information to save themselves, from these people. It's a sort of state of affairs, unfortunate, and it's reasons why my channel isn't growing, Bart's isn't growing, because we're truth seekers and truth tellers, but most of the other crazies out there are just pushing products, and as long as you're pushing products and YouTube can get income from that, and it's a virtuous circle. I talk, I, I, I spew out my bullshit. I sell my product. I advertise my supplier, and I advertise some of the others, and bring more advertising to YouTube from these people. And basically, YouTube goes, fantastic. We'll make sure we promote you, because it's not YouTube It's their tube, and they were only interested in basically pushing their agenda and pushing products and advertising dollars and stuff like that. So, it's there. It's, at the end of the day, I'm not probably as bitter as Bart, because at the end of the day, it is their platform. They own it. They're the shareholders, and they can do whatever they like. The rest of us need to look at other avenues. So I'm still, I haven't loaded anything on the library yet. I need to do something like that, get eventually stuff on. Each time I try and go, it sort of falls over and I just give up and I go, fuck it, I'll try it some other day. But we probably need a competitor, or we need basic some antitrust laws to break these big monopolies, because they have become far too big and far too concentrated and dominated. So, and that's half the problem in that way. So yeah, it's freaking awful in that regard. It's probably, seeing Bart sort of take a bit of a break, I'll miss him. He's a good bloke. He's a wonderful bloke. And he's become a bit of a friend as well to me. And initially, a sort of a YouTube mentor, because I didn't really know much about YouTube. So he sort of cajoled me, pushed me to start a channel and all that. So you got him to thank. And so sort of tried to move in that direction as well. Yeah, the only problem is that people that are in the tropical areas, they need to stay out in the sun longer. They need hours out in the sun, where, somebody with a white complexion like myself, half an hour, you'll get 10,000 IUs very easy, and potentially even up to, depending on the time of day, even higher. So, it doesn't take long for me to get 20,000 IUs by being out in the tropics. But somebody who's, got a very dark complexion, they may need 6 hours. Now, they've moved off the land, they moved into the cities like Jakarta or whatever else, or Bangkok or whatever else, and they're working in an office work type environment from morning. You can be in the tropics just because you're going to go out in the sun for about half an hour at lunchtime or whatever, go and buy a meal, come back and all that. You're not getting a lot of sun exposure. Also, there could be a lot of like silt. There could be a lot of pollution in the air, which also is going to impede UV radiation coming through and reflect that back. So there's a lot of things. Do they have sun in Tassie? Fuck no, not at this stage. It's winter. T2, fucking badass. But it means that if you've got darker skin, you've got to stay out there for longer. And that's why we're seeing these dramatic rises in incidents in these sort of tropical countries. It's big, especially in the city areas, not in the rural areas. Especially only in rural areas like in Indonesia, and there's a reason for that in Malaysia. That is Islam and covering. That's where the problem is, and they are the people that actually have got the lowest vitamin D levels. So, and even Indonesia, they actually did a study. They actually showed that people with low vitamin D levels were the ones that were dying at the highest rate and had the most complications, and that's outside the comorbidities that people may have, diabetes, whatever else. So yeah, very much. Yes. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Mullet. Yeah, you could say, yeah, mullet. That's right. The hair's pretty long and thick in that regard. That's why I need a brush to brush it. You can't put a comb through. Forget it. It will not work. Oh, thank you, Christina. Yes, unfortunately, yes, it is. It's initially when it first came out, I was concerned, and I sort of was I believe her. I said, yep, the virus is real because I look at the science and I saw the electron microscope sort of imagery and all that from a number of different countries. So, that is replicatable truth when you've got multiple places that actually are able to demonstrate that there is a virus. But the problem is the way they managed it was very poorly. They didn't lock down quick enough initially, and then when information is coming out that there are comorbidity issues, that certain people needed to be isolated, but not the whole society, to get herd immunity, and that things like vitamin D, other ionophores and all that would work. So when some of this information came out and they were ignoring it completely, not even giving it the light of day in many cases, it had to be pushed by the occasional doctor here and there that had been using this method and had been reducing the severity of his own patients or her own patients, and still we've still got this same mentality, because the problem is you've got a whole fucking bunch of bureaucrats in the government. They've pushed an agenda, and because they've pushed an agenda, pulling back, they would lose face, because people would say, oh, hold on, confusing messages. But rather than basically taking the time to sit down and explain it to people, what we know now, how we can approach it differently, and we don't need to do the same thing. They don't do that. They basically, and politicians are typical fucking, low lifes, the same sort of approach. They will basically say, oh, you're better than me, or he's better than him, or whatever, to basically say, to pressure. So they're using it as a political football now, ignoring completely the science. It's like with, climate stuff. There's a lot of ambiguity in that field, and there's a lot of poor science and a lot of and that's why, as I said, even about ages ago, I think that the Conleys have a very good hypothesis, but that's all it is. It's a hypothesis, still to be proven by others, and still to be disproven by others. It's neither been disproven or proven by others. That means replicated. So at this point, we do not know how much. And there are actually people that are actually friends of the Conleys that basically also have some differing views on some of the gases. They don't think they play a big role, but they have a very minor role, but it's unimportant. It's not really a problem. And so there are variations even amongst the skeptics. It's not a uniform, it's just the Conleys. That's what Bart thinks they're on the right thing. I'm not 100%, in that regard. We still need more science. We still need to really, investigate. We've still got a lot of raw data that contradicts itself all over the place. And there are reasons for that, because weather stations have been moved over time. Weather stations are not at the same elevation as they used to be in the past. And all these things have an effect on the way things operate. So you can't know what is basically exactly all the causal. We can't. We can hypothesize, and but we shouldn't basically radically change our whole economy on a hypothesis. So that is crazy stuff, and that's where an empiricist like me and Bart, we're skeptical. We say, well, show us the data. You don't have convincing data. You've got a lot of holes in your data. You can't replicate certain things. You're not measuring things. You're estimating a number of things like cloud cover, water vapor, and all sorts of things, which are potent greenhouse effects, especially water vapor. So, and you're only taking measurements from one or two spots around the world. That is not sufficient to basically give you a proper global average, and then extrapolating from that in your computer model to fit it, whatever your agenda is. That's not science. Science is, it's like we're still testing Einstein's theory. We're still testing, gravitational lensing. That actually showed quite clearly that light will gravitationally lens around a larger spherical object, like a larger star. So because of its gravitational effect, it will lens light. We've seen that. It was predicted. and we've seen it experimentally, and we've observed it and measured it properly. A number of stations around the world by a number of independent scientists. That is what is replicatable. That is what is basically, you can put your hat on that. That is how science works. It's like people came up with cold fusion. Other people couldn't replicate it. It went by the wayside because it could not be replicated. Now, there may be, as I said last time, there may be something that's happening there, but until it's proven and replicated, it's not truth. It's a hypothesis. That's all it is, you know. And I'm not going to basically jump on the bandwagon of any hypothesis. I will say it's got merit. Like I said, the Conleys have got merit, but at the same time, I haven't jumped on completely, 100%. I'm not a fanatic. I'm not basically somebody with a sort of a reductionist mind or just sticks to certain things and says, that's it, that's the answer. No, it's a very good explanation, but it's still to be proven and still to be replicated, and still for others to basically either pull it apart or confirm it. We haven't had independent confirmation yet. So until we get independent confirmation or we get some additional science that can actually put holes in it, and it may be partially true, that's as well. Something just because it's got holes, it's like the pooper argument, it's partially true. When it comes to plants, it's definitely an issue. When it comes to animals, it's very ambiguous. So these are the things we need to be very careful not to be ideologically driven and be with blinkers and basically take a yes or it is or it isn't sort of approach. As more information unfolds, we need to say it is a good hypothesis. It is a good, it's the best explanation to this point, but it's not necessarily the real or the truthful explanation, but it's the best explanation. And that's how we need to treat science, because otherwise we then go down the realm of crack pottery where we jump on, like the vegans do, they jump on their epidemiological nonsense and they just run with that. And that's just as bad in that regard. Or some of the carnivores that jump on the rat studies, and we know quite clearly that rats have a different way of metabolizing a number of fatty acids. So that is very important. So you can't extrapolate from a rat to a human. Very important. But many in the carnivore and low carb community have a lot of rat studies. They must love the fuckers, So, always when somebody says that, be very mindful and very critical in your mind. Don't just take it for granted, and not because Harry says or anyone says. Freezing my butt off. T2. Fuck's sake. Actually, my mate actually went on like Friday. I actually went for a bit of a walk, which was a nice day. But at night, it really went cold. I mean, you could freeze your nuts off, just walking outside and drop off, and you go, "Oh shit, I just got castrated," and yeah, really bad in that regard. And he went out later in the evening because he got back late from work, and fuck, it was cold. Believe me. So his son thinks he's a crazy, but anyway, he goes, I get all these hermetic effects. He goes to his son. He's not convinced. I don't blame him. As I said to him, I said, it's too fucking cold, it's too fucking wet. I'm going to stick to middays. I used to do that in the past. God, I used to do all these long night walks. With him, I'm over it. Did I hear that the face masks was left? Yeah, look, yeah, exactly. Yeah, 100,000 trillion viruses were found inside and outside the mask. Yeah, look, face masks, look, they do have if you've got a major disease that's actually in a population, they can slow the spread of the disease. That's all they can do. They can't prevent it unless you're basically in one of those nuclear biological, like the guys that work in virology, in those special research camps you can't even go in. The security, you have to have security clearance and all that, those biological labs, and they wear those full body with artificial, air in and all that. That's what you need to prevent any infection getting into you and then getting washed down. Putting a mask is not going to prevent it. What it would do is it does two things. One, it reduces the viral load that you fire out. So when somebody will ingest that as they're breathing in, as they're walking past and breathing in, they will ingest less of a viral load. A lower viral load will give you a better chance of surviving because it means that you'll get a lower viral load, and your body will be able to respond. A high viral load is what a lot of doctors get and nurses and end up dying because they overwhelm their body and their immune system may be slightly compromised or whatever. So it's basically to keep the viral load down, both going out from you or coming in from someone else. That's all it does. It doesn't protect you, but it basically keeps the viral load, which means that if you do get this this virus and this disease, what will happen? It won't be to the same severity. Then there's comorbidities, vitamin D status, and a whole lot of other factors that are going to be in play how bad as well. So it's a multifaceted sort of thing. It's not just the mask. But mask, look, if everybody wore a mask, it probably would lower the viral load in the surrounding, and it would basically mean that you would probably have less deaths in a sense. But would it be 100%? We don't have enough information, science, to basically prove it either here or there. We can only go on anecdotes. And when we look at Asia, where there is something like 99 or whatever, there's very high prevalence of masks. In a number of those cases, when there are outbreaks, you notice that there isn't as big a severity in some places, depending on the virus, depending on what the pathogen is as well. So the size of the pathogen, there's a lot of factors. It's transmission vector and all sorts of other factors that it can be in play. So yeah, it's still a grey area in that regard. Currently, I'm not wearing a mask because we don't have any incidents in Hobart. There are actually, I think, just recently some incidents that people are reporting, but I'm not sure. There was also a US Marine up in Darwin that came in and brought the damn thing. See, when Australians, and I know this quite well because I know families in the Australian military, because my mate Sean, his daughter's in the military. When she was deployed, she had to isolate for 2 weeks before she could deploy on the boat. So she isolated for 2 weeks, and then she got the clearance. Problem is, the US military seemed to basically not follow the rules, and then they bring people in and infect our troops. So not a very good thing to do as an ally. It's a bit annoying. We haven't made a big issue of it, but it is annoying because Northern Territory had a zero status until that person turned up. So in that sense, and I know US Marines don't have any other friendly place in the Western Pacific to be able to have extensive areas, because we've got a big background, a big area, desert and tropical areas and all that, a lot of areas where they can actually train with our troops. So, which they can get high quality training as well, and access to areas where they wouldn't otherwise in the Pacific. So, they need to do the right thing by us. Let's put it that way. But I'll leave it at that. Anyway, they're still a good ally, but at the same time, they did the wrong thing here, and somebody needs to get their fucking head slapped in or punched in, for stuff like that. Because I was hoping that I'd like to get the fucking tropics, even if it's fucking the Northern Territory. that when the opening happens, I could fly from here to the Northern Territory and get a bit of fucking sun, so I'm not having to fucking use vitamin D tablets. But unfortunately, that is not going to happen because their status has gone back to 0 days. So, yes, very annoying. Anyway, there's my bitch. See, working from home too long, not getting enough sun is starting to make me cranky. That's all it is. G'day, mate.
So you're feeling
Just telling him
cranky?
about my cranky. Yeah, I'm not getting enough, sun. You know, I love the sun. I can stay out in the sun, just literally bathe like mad. You know.
Yeah, I like doing that
Anyway,
too.
6 more years and then I can retire, and then I'm retiring in the tropics, out enough Tasmania,
where the stream will take place henceforth.
Yes, exactly. It will. It will. So, I'm going to move along. I've sort of missed quite a few. I've been ranting for a while. So,
yeah, sorry, I just got home there about a half hour ago.
You missed all my colourful rants, mate.
Yeah, I missed Bart's stream too. I only watched the first 15 minutes or so, and I had to leave.
Yeah, I got into the end part of it myself. So, yes.
Yeah, I understand. He's taking a break for good reasons.
Yeah, look, he needs a break. You know, it's been exhausting for him. He's, he wants to do a couple of other things as well to improve his finances. There's a lot of things at play, and I can understand that. You know, you still got to eat, you still got to feed yourself, pay the bills. You know, a whole lot of other things. Yes. Without Harry, I wouldn't have known without Bart, I wouldn't have known, yes, your channel, Harry. Yep, that's true. That's true, Christina.
Yep.
Yep. I always say it's due. The only reason I'm here is because Bart sort of cajoled me and sort of pressured me and sort of said, get that channel going and all that. So yeah, eventually I sort of jumped on the YouTube bandwagon, so to speak. Yes, yes. Yeah, well, you're in Perth, so it's pretty good. My sister basically keeps on, like yesterday, I was speaking to my sister early in the afternoon, and she basically goes, "Oh, it's beautiful today. It's 21 here. I've been out in this. It's going to be 21 tomorrow as well. I'm going to be out in the sun and all that." I'm going, "Go fuck yourself, sis," because it was 12 down here, and she was rubbing it in as
12?
usual. The little bitch. Hobart.
When was that?
12. It was, I think, 12 yesterday. It got in earlier the day. Then it got up to 13, but I'm not sure. And today it's 12 again.
I thought Australia was supposed to be hot.
Oh, this is Tasmania, where, the next port of call after here is Antarctica.
Yeah.
So we're not as cold as because if you go across, we're not part of the southern island of New Zealand is even slightly further south than us, and there's an administrative area which is it's a reserve that you can't live on because there are penguins and stuff like that. There's an island to the south of us which is called Macquarie Island, and there it's really fucking cold even in summer. You got to go down there with a jacket nearly. So and the thing is, as an island, we're completely exposed to the southern winds from the Antarctica. Sometimes they can blow directly up and cover the entire state with snow. So I'm trying to think now, when was it? 86? I think it was 86 when 86 or 80. I think it probably was 80. It may be, yeah. It's either 86 or 85. I think it was 86. No, it was 86. I think it was 86 that we actually got complete snow cover. Somebody can, go and Google it. Do something useful. Yes, and yes, it was quite interesting. Actually, I didn't have to go to college that that day, so that was good. But went out and played with the snow.
Well, it's been hot here, so the opposite perception of what I just expressed of Australia is being surprised it's cold. A lot of people are surprised to learn that it gets hot.
Well, Australia's
Canada.
Australia's basically a continent, so you've got the tropics all the way down to Tasmania, which is far colder, so which is more like, it has got the same weather like the UK. So we're 40 degrees south. So it's, do a 40 degrees, sort of a reversal on the northern hemisphere, and you're in I think the southern part or the northern part of England or the southern part of Scotland. So, yeah, quite green and cold in that regard. So, was 86. Thanks, Richard. Yep. Thought it was 86. Yeah. And July the 25th. Yep. Yeah, my memory's not gone completely. I thought YouTube would damage it, but it hasn't. Thank the fuck for that. It's all the hate speech from YouTube. They hate us carnies. So, they've been depressing me. They've definitely been depressing Bart. Yes, he's definitely not happy with him.
Whoops. Oh, I just replied to Shell in your chat, but I didn't realize that I'm signed in from my the wrong account on Gmail here. It's showing up as my name instead of NACST.
Okay. Fair enough. I used a face mask. We'll develop mold spores within 3 days. We are slowly exterminating ourselves. Yeah. Well, look, I don't think face masks are that bad in that regard. I mean, there may be poor quality ones that you got, or you may have too much mold in where you're living. So there are actual plants that actually can improve air quality in homes and also can kill off mold spores. So look into them. Just Google them, you'll find them. The ferns and stuff like that. And those sort of ferns will basically, you just have to be careful because some of the ferns can be harmful to animals. So really be careful to make sure that you don't pick the wrong fern where you kill your pet just to improve your air quality. So keep that in mind. Fuck me. A root.
I'm making notes this time.
45 degrees Celsius in Montreal. 110 Fahrenheit. Fuck.
Yeah. That's unseasonably hot. That would be a heat wave. It's not going to hold there for very long. But that's,
it won't.
That hot. Yeah.
Yeah, mate. Keep your sodium levels up and hydration.
Oh, yeah. Speaking of, I'm just on the salt today. I'm had a bit of an anxious day. I'm thinking I'm going to start another fast now. Been saying for a little while that I'm overdue for one. So my last one was like 2 months ago. So
yeah, I haven't done one since last month as well. I do time restricted feeding, but doing a proper fast for a couple of days. I sort of Bart said last week he sort of did one, and I just couldn't motivate myself.
Yeah, I'm going to do 3 to 5 days probably. I'll evaluate how I feel after 3 days.
And the problem is I actually bought quite a few steaks, and I've got extra steaks, and I just want to get through them.
That's exactly what kept happening to me, is that I have a meat order that comes every week, and I have to remember to tell them not to do it a week ahead. Otherwise I have groceries in the fridge and I don't want to let them go bad.
Precisely, milk and stuff like that. And I don't want to fucking freeze the milk, because the problem is then it tastes like shit.
No, I would sooner just eat the loss of having to dump the milk after the fast than
exactly.
I'll just get more milk. I'm glad I'm in the position to really do that now.
Yeah, exactly. Things have improved. I love to dress in full isolation. It's a cheap version of Finnish sauna at the hospital. Oh, well. Everybody's got their thing. Yes. 2.5 steaks for me, so that was really, really nice. And my mate actually did his traditional, he does a sort of a gorgonzola sauce, which is, the gorgonzola cheese type thing. He puts mushrooms in there, but I see mushrooms as a new, look, it's not something that I buy. But at the same time, mushrooms are sort of they're not really a plant, but they're not really an animal. They're sort of somewhere in between, because they are fungus after all. And we have plenty of funguses, and funguses are more like animal rather than plant. Even though they grow on things, they are genetically more like an animal than that. So, that's how I said I don't classify mushroom as a plant, even though many do, but it's not. It's a fungus.
Yeah, they are fibrous, but I would agree that they're the least problematic non-animal food that I personally incorporate on a
exactly basis. Yeah, and so I'm not going to say to my mate, fuck, don't put, I'm his guest, so I'm going to sit there, have it. I just probably will push a few of them. I'll have a few of the mushrooms, but I won't have them all. That's the only difference.
Yeah.
But you still need to be sociable and stuff like that. But
I was that guy picking bits of sautéed onion out of a plate of ground beef a couple of days ago. I still like the beef; it was good. But
exactly. Look,
I'm in for if I eat that.
I've cut cases like that as well. Yeah, that I'll take things out and stuff like that. But not do it that obvious. Just because at the end of the day, somebody went to all the trouble of preparing that meal and stuff like that. You want to be a bit respectful. And a bit of plant isn't going to fucking kill you. There's plenty of longevity people out there that live on plenty of plants, like the Okinawans and many others, that basically are still around and all that. The difference is they have low inflammatory foods. They have time restricted feeding. They calorie restrict. Do a whole lot of other things that are beneficial to mitigate some of those foods. Yes, they're not optimal, but they're not the devil incarnate either. So let's just get over it. Nothing like bacon and eggs. Yes. I have to say, I do enjoy bacon and eggs.
Me too, especially if I have a good bacon.
Yeah.
Although I haven't been eating very much bacon lately, actually.
Okay.
Yeah. We had bought a pastured pork last fall and had bacon made out of that. And we were fortunate enough to have somebody make it for us where they didn't use nitrate salt. They actually just did it a very traditional way that you wouldn't be able to get a farmer license or whatever to do that for you, unfortunately, because they'd be breaking the law in Canada anyway. It was so good. It was so good. And then the next time that I had the bacon from like the farm that I help out on was it's still good, but it was not the same. I mean, it's a different quality animal too, but I think I react a little bit to the celery salt. So all I'm saying, I guess, is that bacon's hard to get like minimal enough ingredients for me to really enjoy eating it on a regular basis. Otherwise, I tend to find that it sort of starts getting to me a little bit.
Yeah, that's what I find as well. I mean, I've probably consumed more pork or pork rind, sort of pork, rashers as they called, which is sort of these pieces which don't have as much protein, but they've got a lot of fat in them. So these rashers, so pork rashers and stuff like that. So I've been cooking more of that sort of stuff, or pork chops and stuff like that, rather than actually bacon as much recently as well. So, and Dad's been doing that pretty much as well. He's sort of given up on the bacon. He sort of finds that it's easier, much quicker to basically just cook rashers or cook pork chops.
Yeah, the other thing with pork for me too is that it's tough to cook it just right, so it's not dry, but it is cooked.
That's it.
I don't like messing around with undercooked at all. I like my pork well done.
Yeah.
But I really wish that I felt more confident enjoying it like a medium rare pork chop or something. I do understand the risks that you're taking there are pretty low for a good quality animal coming from a good place. But
Exactly.
even so, it just doesn't feel worth it to me, knowing what that could turn into.
Yeah, I find that it takes a bit more effort and a bit more time, and you have to basically be there while you're cooking it nearly to make sure that you get it sort of.
Yeah,
I can just put a steak for 3 minutes, walk away, come back, turn it over for another 3 minutes, and then done. Sort of approach. Then leave it for 6 minutes, 5 or 6 minutes to just basically just settle.
I should experiment more with like brined and marinated pork to keep it from drying out as easily. Because I really do enjoy pork when it's done just right, but it's sort of a pain to eat when it's not so bad eating it dry if it has a decent amount of fat with it, I guess. But it's not as enjoyable as a steak, which is so easy to do for me because I don't care about under or overcooking it really.
Yeah, that's the thing. And I mean, recently I did see Kelly and sort of I think it was was she with Ken Berry? Yeah, that's right. And they basically were talking about just general foods and stuff like that, and they themselves, because they've experimented, they've looked at it, and they're ignoring all these rat studies and all that, and saying, yep, I mean, if it's bacon isn't a big issue, for them either, which is good, so or pork in general. I mean, I say, I for the life of me, I say the Okinawans have a saying: they start the morning with pork, they end the morning with pork. You go to most of the Pacific Islanders who use coconut oil and some fish that they actually fish. Their traditional other food was basically piglets, small piglets that they used to have big groups. So we're talking about a large majority of people, our chimp ancestors still hunt, that we've got a connection with genetically, still hunt small piglets in the wild. I mean, there is so much genetics involved. And I'm saying that we're not rats. We don't metabolize fats the same way. We have different enzymes. We don't actually respond in the same way as rats. We need to get away from those rat studies.
So Ken Berry was referencing rat studies as reasons.
No.
Okay,
I'm talking about others that do.
Right,
people know who I'm referring towards.
Obviously, I don't apparently.
Yeah, but I'm talking about Paul.
Okay. Oh yeah. Sorry. Yes. Where he mentioned about pork and
exactly.
Chicken.
Yeah. But I look at populations right throughout the world. Like Southeast Asia, with a lot of chicken consumption and a lot of other things. The reality is, if it's in an animal form, I don't see the problem, because in an animal form, basically it is incorporated. You've got all mammals will produce glutathione, and glutathione will refresh the topophorol that's actually stuck in stabilizing those fatty acids. So the omega, if you're in a non-inflammatory diet, those omega-6s that are incorporated into your tissue will not become damaged, because the topopherol that's there stuck in the cell membrane will continue that little tail, will continue to basically provide electron doning. And the glutathione, because you still get glutathione, especially if you're on a moderate to low sugar diet, will basically still, you'll get some glutathione to refresh, to basically recycle, which basically means giving back the capacity to become for that vitamin E to become an electron donor again. So it's not going to be a fucking issue. But if you take something and force it out of a plant, you've got none of the structural integrity is gone, and that structural integrity no longer exists there to protect, the binding of the vitamin E is no longer. You can put vitamin E, but it doesn't have the same binding sort of with those PUFAs in the actual oils. You can also break those binds or reduce the vitamin E when you cook seeds and plants and stuff like that. So that have got a lot of these sort of omega-6s, especially nuts in particular. That could be a problem, like people do roasted nuts. So yes, you do reduce the anti-nutrients, the phytates, the lectins and stuff like that, but then you basically also potentially cause some level of rancidity within the actual PUFAs that are in those, almond nuts or whatever you're actually cooking. But there's a completely difference when it comes to animal fats, the way it's incorporated and the way it's protected and all that. So it's a completely different issue. And it shows quite clearly when you basically cook even extra virgin olive oil. When you cook it, it will generate much higher levels. And this is an oil that basically hasn't gone through a distillery, a refinery, like all the other oils, the vegetable oils and all that. They really are badly produced and have so damaged. They just basically, are a class A toxin. But even olive oil is, if you cook it, you'll basically get way higher levels of, we're talking about considerably fourfold or more levels of aldehydes compared to something like butter. And butter also would generate, because of the proteins and some of the fats that are basically in the butter, they'll also generate some level of aldehydes from that. That's why ghee is better to cook with, and butter is better to basically put on top of something that's already cooked, like cook a steak and put a slab of butter that melts all over it. Yep, that's fine. But I don't, low temperature, fine for butter, for cooking with butter, but I would rather use ghee so I can actually up the temperature a bit in that regard. So yeah, those are where even tallow has got slightly more, will generate it's tiny, slightly more aldehydes than what pork will. Pork still has more omega-6s, but it's producing less reactive. This is why we've been using lard for centuries to cook foods. And you look at the longest living population, the Okinawans, they cook in lard. They start the day with lard, with pork, and they finish the day with pork. And they cook primarily in lard. So when I go, well, show me the fucking evidence, because there is none. And all those studies that actually show a problem with PUFA, what are they? They're all fucking ones with vegetable oils in them. It's either in the chow of the frickin' rats, or it's in the food of humans. But we've never seen study. I mean, there's only I still need to do that PUFA thing, which I haven't done. Sorry, it will happen this month. I've promised it, and that will show that where a rat study where it's on pure bacon, which can fight cancer. Now, I'm not saying, but that's an example where everybody else is using all these other rat studies to say, oh, look at the PUFA, what's it doing to these people, causing them all these problems. And then I can actually show one where it's just eating pure bacon, and they're giving it something that it will induce cancer, and still the fucker actually improves, can actually fight off that thing where the other rats can't, the controls. So what is that telling you? That an animal food is very different. Now, do we know exactly mechanistically how? No, we don't. As I pointed out to Bart last time, we don't. And the reason we don't, because we haven't done the proper experiments. But anecdotally, and with an experiment without proving exactly the mechanism, we've been able to demonstrate, in a rat at least, that that's not the case. Now, I would not basically, you'd never get the ability to basically put a cancer sort of isotope into somebody and then give them bacon. That's not going to happen anywhere. It's not going to ever go past any ethical committee in any university. So that will never happen. So all we can put our hat and say, okay, the rat seems to be doing quite well. It's a mammal. It's not getting the toxicity, because that is a toxicity study. And with toxicity, like drug toxicity and all that, rats are not too bad as a useful model. So at least we can say that if you're in an environment that basically is a toxic environment where there may be, let's say, particulates in the air that are coming from a mining area that have got basically radioactive isotopes, particles in the air, and basically you eat bacon, it may be protective. It is in rats, So, but you can't say that about the standard chow of the rat, which is full of seed oils and sugar. And that's the problem, because, Paul and others are pointing to those rat studies and go, look at the poofer. Same thing with the Ray Peter people were doing the same thing. Look at the poofer. Look at the damage that it's causing. I'm going, that's not bacon. That is not basically animal poofer. That is basically shit that humans have created and put into that animal. You show me something that is actually not that sort of shit, and then argue with me. They can't show me one example.
So there's an important difference between the poofa found in pork versus vegetable oil.
Exactly. Yeah. And that is where my frustration comes from with a lot of this sort of nonsense that's happening, because we shouldn't do it. Because, we shouldn't be putting things forward and arguments based on very, spurious or very poorly designed studies. This is what Bart's been saying for ages, railing against all this, that how, poorly designed studies can really give you bad information and misleading information. And that's what it is. It's misleading information. This is why I gravitated to a person like Bart. Why? Because he's a true empiricist like myself. He truly believes that you need to do good science, that you need to basically demonstrate with really good, scientific method by applying it properly. And it can be replicated. You can actually replicate the same thing. Somebody else can do the same experiment elsewhere in the world, a good quality experiment, and get the same result. That is replicatable truth. I want to check time dilation. I can do it. You can do it. Every fucker on this planet can do it, and we'll get the same bloody result when it comes to time dilation. It is truth, because nobody can dispute it, because they get the same fucking result each time when they do the study. That is what is replicatable truth. What these people are doing, 99% of the studies that go through, you can't replicate them. You can't. If you can't replicate something, it is not truth. Simple as that. It literally drives me up the wall. It drives Bart up the wall as well. You feel like taking a baseball bat to these fuckers.
Yeah,
I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that, YouTube.
I think the foundation of
it's a joke.
The foundation of the discussion needs to be around what quality of evidence looks like. I think that would be an interesting subject for Bart to tackle, given that he has such a broad range of experience, great depth of experience, I should say, I guess, with data analysis, statistical analysis.
Look, I was hoping to do something like that with him. But
yeah, I'm sure it could still happen in the future.
Yep, exactly.
But I think that sort of gets lost in the weeds a little bit with the argument that he's getting tired of having against plant-based advocates, right? That it needs to fundamentally be about what good quality evidence looks like to start with. And I know that he's probably just gotten sick of having to say that over and over and over, but I just mean, I think like a dedicated quick video about that would be good from you or him.
Yeah, yeah. And that's exactly right. Yeah, they took a whole lot of fucking supplements. Back in the Paleolithic period, they had a corner shop. It provided them with all the actual supplements they needed. Yep, not an issue. Yeah, basically, you turn up with your spear and say, "Yeah, I'll have that. I'll have that. Love, I'll have that." For fuck's sake, these people are so detached from reality. Oils and fats, heats, etc. I didn't know that olive oil isn't too good with heat.
Mm-hmm.
Aldehydes, my dear, aldehydes 4 times. Not good. If you're gonna use it over a steak, I wasn't going to say salad, a steak. It's less of a problem. It's a bit like a lot of people talk about the monounsaturated fats that are in olive oil and certain types of fatty acids within that have benefits. But the reality is tallow and a lot of the animal foods also have a large proportion of 40 to 50%, depending on the animal, of these same actual PUFAs. These same MUFAs, exactly the same MUFAs, and just slightly less in percentages. Where, let's say, in olive oil, it's 60%. In tallow, it'll be 30 something percent. But you're not getting a massive benefit, because remember, your body needs a whole range of different fatty acids, and the primary fatty acid that it uses for structural material and a lot of things, what does it actually convert? It converts things. Thanks, Luke. I'll put that up shortly. And it converts basically everything to palmitate. Why? Because palmitate is the most stable sort of way to actually store fat. As a 16 carbon, fatty acid. It's the best. You can cleave off 4 ketones off it, butyrates, 4 ketones. It's perfect for everything in that regard. And I mean, if you look at lung surfactant, it's pretty much choline and palmitate, nothing else, no other fat whatsoever. So why? Because it's critical that the stability and integrity of your lung surfactant is very well to basically both protect the lungs for the actual oxygen carbon dioxide exchange that actually happens. So that is one of the most stable, and that is why it's incorporated in such, pretty much 100% of your lung surfactant. The body knows what it does. It will use MUFA in certain other parts of the body. It will put them in the marrow, in a few other spots. It's required, for certain immune, but you don't need massive amounts, So the amounts you get from tallow are more than sufficient for all those things. More is not better. This sort of nonsense that more is better, that's just fucking nonsense. Yes. Then the repeat goes to jail. Petian. What are you in for? I tried treating diabetes with sugar.
Yeah.
Yes. Look,
who were the pair that talked about treating diabetes with fruitarian diet? I forget. I forget the names. Paul Saladino did a video with them a couple of months ago.
Yep.
It was ruthless to watch. How, I don't know, just it seemed obvious to me that one side of the conversation understood what they were talking about, the other side did not.
If you really go, remember I did recently my first chat with Pim, and that was on Walter Kempner. Remember about the sugar type diet that he was on, but very low protein, very low fat, and very low electrolytes. For a short period, but also you had to get all these other vitamins. You got, because it's vitamin, you're basically just getting empty calories. He used it for a specific purpose to fix a specific type of kidney disease. And it works. I mean, at the time, they didn't really know the Randall cycle. At the time, they didn't really know basically ketogenic diets could be used for that same purpose as well, without the deleterious effects of basically, having to supplement and cutting out all the electrolytes, because you would because you're inducing high levels of insulin, you would basically be inducing a lot of, like water retention. And, you really have to go low levels of, it's the same thing that would happen if you're in a state where, like I've got one person that I'm helping out, and she's basically, she's doing low sodium, and I agree with it. And the reason why is because her mitochondria are completely fucked, completely damaged. And so she's in a glycolytic, sugar burning, even though she's eating shitloads of meat, she's just in a sugar burning until we can restore proper mitochondrial function. So in those sort of conditions, it's a very different story. And as I said, in terms of pathology states, yes, you need to do this. But doing this long term, we know what are the consequences. It's the vegan diet. It's basically you waste away all your muscle. Yes, you can basically lower your Randall cycle effects and basically reverse diabetes on 96% sugar. But the problem is you will waste away. This is what happens to the fruitarians. They waste away to nothing. So it's not a lifestyle you can sustain. A short-term intervention for certain conditions, yes, it worked. But, let's get serious, people. At the end of the day, you need a species-appropriate diet. It's not an optimal diet. It's a biohack. That's all it is. And it's a misplaced and misused biohack by a bunch of, crazies out there that have misused Walter's work and misrepresented it as well. It's like basically the early ketogenic, the therapeutic ketogenic things for epilepsy and stuff like that. And some gurus in the keto community misrepresented that and told everybody that they should basically cut their protein to next to nothing and up their fat to nearly 90+%. That was also nonsense. People had their hair drop out. My hair thinned out when I did something like that. I did it for a month and I said, this is crazy. And then looked into it and realized how important mTOR was. You need to cycle through this pulsatile effect, as I've been talking about in the past. So you need to be very careful, because sometimes you can go down the wrong path, the slippery slope into crack pottery very, very easily nowadays. And a lot of people do, unfortunately. Yes, bird brain, you need some polyphenols. They would improve your feathers, mate. You definitely need some. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it degrades with heat, accelerates oxidation. Yeah, and a lot of the problem with a lot of polyphenols sometimes, one, they can become pro-oxidants. Two, they can generate far too much hormesis. Because if you're already stressed, your body's fucked, you're in a terrible state of affairs, you may have got severe mitochondrial damage and severe sort of a state of where you're not working. You try and force a busted motor to work better, it's not going to work. You're waterlogged with a whole lot of deuterium. You need to clear that out before you can even start trying to induce, all these hermetic effects. You're going to make things worse. And this is a problem with all these fucktards out there and a whole lot of others that use these sort of things, naturopathic, fuckwits that basically just make people worse. And I've come across their experiments and those people who are fucking train wrecks, and they get to me and they go, you did this, and this, didn't you? And they go, yeah. You did very high amount of this vitamin, and you caused this deficiency in another mineral or whatever. I'm going, okay. So let's just pull all that and just put that in your cupboard. We may use it later on in smaller amounts, but just let's get away from all that and let's do some other strategies. So yeah, that's quite painful when, and that's because I, as I said, I don't have the time. I've got a day job, I've got my own life, and I'm not willing to put in the hours that Bart did because he didn't have a day job and he could. So I will strategically now start making certain types of, and anybody asks me for the science, they can go get fucked. They can go and do their own research. I'm not there to provide. I'm just there to provide solutions for people to fix their health. And that's all. That's going to be my approach because people need, when people come and ask me, and I need to do one on that bodybuilder's formula, the approach and stuff like that as well. I'll do a little short video so people no longer have to email me and I have to copy and paste all the details each time. That doesn't take too much long time, but still I want to basically make a couple of videos so I don't have to do any of that pretty much. It's not that I don't want to, I just don't have the time sometimes. And I don't want to let people just be waiting for weeks to get a reply sometimes, or at least it's usually just a week. Sometimes I reply pretty fast, but it depends on the circumstances. Sometimes, issues arise with in my family or stuff like that, and I have to deal with them. Mm-hmm. I tend to be my family's problem solver most of the time. So anyway, shit happens. They probably utilize me because nobody else can come up with solutions for them. Yes. But it is taxing. It is taxing on my time.
I would be getting you to solve my problems if you were in my family, to be fair.
Yeah, look, my sisters do the same. Yeah, look, everybody else does the same, friends, family, yeah. So, yeah, but it is slightly taxing. Initially, I didn't get a lot, but that's the vegan crap food. Don't they call it Satan or something like that?
Oh,
yes. Man after my own heart. Actually, I'd cut out because I was basically doing, I've dropped a few kilos again because I've cut out my fucking ice cream addiction, which I was having half a tub at night. I'm going, I need to stop doing this. And even my mate said, oh yeah, about time you fucking did that. But yesterday, basically, what did you do? Served up some ice cream. So yeah, anyway.
So how'd that go?
Yeah, I had it.
Yeah, good. Was it good?
Yeah, it was very nice.
Yeah, I haven't had ice cream since.
As I say, I do mostly a carnivore diet. This is more to break the bullshit, to provide people with solutions and stuff. That's what my YouTube is, and no bullshit and all that. Yes, I do primarily mostly carnivore diet. It's usually quite clean and quality meats as well. But at the end of the day, I do have my cheats, primarily ice cream. I usually cut back on it. I had cut back on it for a couple of days, and now I've just decided that I'll just do it on the Saturday with my mate. That's it. So it'll be one day of the week, and that will be pretty much it. So I don't buy it. I don't buy anything.
I should probably allow myself a treat more often than I do for that kind of thing.
Yeah, look.
Corinne makes really good ice cream. She just makes it from raw cream, raw egg yolk, a little bit of honey, and vanilla.
I need to start making my own. That's true. Like I did with the jelly. I got sick and tired of jelly. It's just
I was wondering about that.
You can only eat so much jelly, and then eventually you're eating jelly every night, and you go, I'm sick of this. There's only so much jelly you can eat, and then you get sick of it. I don't get sick of steaks, but I can get sick of jelly, and I can even get sick of ice cream if I have it too long. That as well. So it doesn't. Those sort of foods don't appeal to me. It's occasionally I'll have a bit of a craving. That's about it. We're all human after all. I don't claim that I'm perfect. Never have. Never will. And at the end of the day, if anybody gives me a hard time, I'll just ban them off my channel. You know, I don't tell you how to live your life. Don't tell me. So just so you know, I usually tell my own relatives to fuck off if they're trying to tell me how to live my life and they know it not to. So I'm not going to take it from absolute strangers either. Just so you know.
Okay, I'm just making a note here not to tell Harry to how to live his life.
Exactly. Never do that. Very dangerous. Nothing wrong with double dipping. You know, go to a party.
Don't even single dip without looking first.
Well, you're guaranteed that nobody else will touch it after that. It's all yours.
That's true. That's true. You don't want to try it to make sure that it's good before getting stuck with it as yours, though?
Well, you can try it first. If it's okay, then you basically make sure that nobody else touches it. Yes, I have done that and annoyed people at work grabbing the brie. Harry's touched the brie. You can't. Nobody can eat it. Oh, well, I'll eat it then. None of you are going to have any. Yeah, me neither. Oh, probably eggs. Yeah, sometimes I go back to my supplement, my choline supplement, when I get sick and tired of eggs. I can't imagine that.
I just need to mix up how I make my eggs a little bit, but I generally enjoy soft scrambled eggs every day.
Well, Wednesday I actually had scrambled eggs, so I made 12 scrambled eggs, and so it was a big meal. I said, look, because the eggs, the best before day still had about 5 days to go. I said, oh, fuck it, I'll just do that. Because I did the whole 12. I said, fuck it, I did the whole lot. I'll get new ones to replace them. And I like to have them, you know, quite a number of weeks best before. So that's just me with eggs. And so I made scrambled eggs, and then I put really some nice cheeses, you know, sort of a Parmigiana type cheese, an Italian, a raw Parmigiana, and it was you know, quite a few months aged, so it really had one of those really nice smells to it. And I just, you know, grated that all over. So I scrambled the eggs, cooked them, took it off the actual, basically just moved to the table and just put it on the one of those wooden benches, and then it was still in the pan, the scrambled stuff. So, and then I just grated all the cheese in there and just mixed it all up. You know, that salt and pepper. Oh, that was nice. Absolutely, I really enjoyed that.
I also like Parmesan on my eggs.
Okay. Well, there you go.
Not all the time.
Yeah. I do try other cheeses. Don't get me wrong. I have tried soft cheeses. I've tried feta cheese, all sorts of things. So you just basically, with feta cheese, I find that, you have to really make sure you get a lot of the moisture out of it, you know, because that's why I immediately, I don't take it even off the actual plate. It's still, you know, just at the end of the cooking, I'll put it all in there and just mix it up so it actually loses a bit of its moisture and binds much better. Like all these, it's like all these pieces of flake, white flakes all over the place and all that. And so that's how I sort of do. Well, that's how I like it anyway. You can try it if you don't like it. Bad luck. My thoughts on persistent runs in the context of a carnivore diet. Yeah, look, our ancestors would have walked very slowly behind animals and then would have basically run quite fast towards the animal to kill it. So if that's what you're sort of alluding to.
I'm wondering if you might be talking about poop.
Oh, shit. Persistent runs. Okay. Sorry. All right. Yeah, oh, well. Look, my mind's on walking. Even after this, I want to go for a bit of a walk anyway. Oh, yeah. The actual runs. It's not something that I've experienced, but what I've from research, what I've understood is pretty much it is a liver issue and a bile issue. So you're not recycling bile from the choline properly through for some damn reason. And it's usually the FXR enzyme that's problematic. And the best way to actually deal with that is pretty much increase your MK4 and get a milk thistle. So get milk thistle and MK4 to resolve that issue. And that's usually what resolves it. Sometimes you may even need to get bile salts to sort of recycle because you lose a number of these bile salts, and that can be a problem where you sort of dysregulate the bile salt production. So that can be a problem that you're not getting then producing enough. So you may need as a temporary measure, and that also may increase your runs as well, which is unfortunate. But I wouldn't do it immediately. I'd first basically focus on the MK4, like high dose MK4, and also choline. So choline, MK4, and milk thistle to sort of bring back normal function of your liver. Yeah. So, yeah. Thanks, Daniel. Daniel's laughing. Me and the runs. I suspect that. And he's right at the bottom here. Hey, I had a hard night. Stayed up late. Went out, stayed up late. That's probably what it is. I'm not firing on all 4 cylinders. So,
yeah, you're welcome. Up late. I've probably got another 15 minutes or so.
You're welcome, mate. Back to where I was. Yes, got to read these questions properly. Because you said it in the context of an ancestral diet, and that's where it threw me. You know, if you just said basically, you know, I'm doing carnivore, I'm getting persistent.
And I mean, like persistence hunting. There's another term there, so persistent runs. I get what you.
Yeah. So that's where I sort of got confused or brain fogged.
It must have been the lack of ice cream, says TW.
Thanks, mate. You do that. Who's Lewis?
I don't know.
He must be a vegan that wants to feed himself to a dog. Is that it? Crazy people. Crazy people.
So, Butter escaped this week and came home.
I've heard about it. Oh, has she? Did she?
She broke out of a second-story window, destroyed the screen, hopped to freedom.
I've escaped.
Came home in the morning.
I'm hungry. I better go back to Jared.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I guess that was probably about it. Yeah.
Yes. Maybe saw a bird. Maybe saw a rat. Said, "I need that."
She's desperate to be an outdoor cat.
Yeah, but look, my sister's cat's a bit like that as well. She loves being outdoors. You know, sort of hunting.
Mm.
But at the moment, she's basically stuck in there with Dad, and sort of he's overfeeding her. Fuck, he's putting on weight. And my sister's going, "Don't feed her so much, Dad." And he goes, "Oh, she's coming around and cruising through my legs and really and meowing to me and all that. Oh, I just feel really sorry for her." And I go, "Dad, stop fucking feeding her.
Yeah.
She's not a baby."
If you feed them, well, I guess more similar to like a raw diet too, they're less prone to overeating.
Well, he's not. He's basically getting. They're all foods, all meats and stuff like that, like tuna and stuff like that. It's all animal based foods. But the problem is the cat's indoors, locked indoors, and not going anywhere because he's scared that if she takes off again, she may not return. So fucking hell. He doesn't want to disappoint my sister, and And as I said to my sister last time, if it happens again, I said, bad luck for you. Shit happens. Dad's old. He's not shouldn't be required to be. And I said, Dad, you need to stop stressing. If the cat goes, the cat goes. Susie's fault for leaving it behind and not dealing with it earlier when she moved over to Western Australia. But her sort of argument was, I hadn't settled down, I found I was in a B&B for a while and all that until I found a place and all that. And I said, well, you could have got it over there and put it into one of those, what are they called? It's where you can keep a cat for a certain amount of time it's like a housing. It's like a pet hotel, that sort of thing. Yeah, I said, you could have done something like that, and you basically now would have had a bit of company. So, anyway, you live and learn. She won't do that mistake again. Interesting.
Ice cream recipe?
Yeah, ice cream is all about ice cream. This channel is all about ice cream now. So, and, my lovely subs are caring for me. Yes. I know you like a bit of whip. Sure can sort you out with that, T2. Somebody needs to give you a bit of a whip now and then. Yes, me too, mate too.
I like Parmesan. Parmesan and cheddar and brie. I think probably my favorite cheeses. Not in that order.
The actual look, I actually I do like feta, but I do like brie as well. I'd have to say, if I like brie, I like brie slightly more than feta, and the only reason I like it more is because it's so creamy. Especially if you get those the nice French, really creamy double cream type. Yes. Oops.
Sorry, I'm jotting things down.
Don't worry. I just lost my spot. Where am I? I'm back here. I found my spot. StreamYard just decided to jump again. I probably do. That's what the problem is. I couldn't work out the runs. I need ice cream. Definitely. See? Thank you, supporter. I like TW, a person after my own heart. You're poofed out. I hope it's not oily. The stuff that poofed you out. Nah, coffee isn't high in oxalate. Nah, it's not. It definitely isn't. Instant coffee is higher than if you go and have, in a coffee shop, the coffee shop stuff, because they drain through the water, so you don't get as much oxalate. And even the stuff that it gets instant, it's very low. It's a very low oxalate. So it's not really an issue in that regard. Coffee's got other issues. With some people it's worse, some people it's not, the way they sort of respond to some of the polyphenols in it, and generally to the caffeine, so, and a few other issues. And if it's also can, with some people, let's say it can overexcite, let's say if you've got too much cortisol issues, adrenal issues, or stuff like that, it can be a bit taxing. But, adrenal fatigue is a mitochondrial issue. It's not an adrenal issue, just to make that clear, so because people say that it's an adrenal issue. It's not. Your body swings between cortisol and melatonin. Those are the cycles. If you were to suppress cortisol to nothing through the daytime, you would be fucked health-wise. So don't listen to people who say high cortisol is bad. No. High cortisol in its time is really good and very important in getting a whole lot of mechanisms and systems working properly, and also very important for your eyes. Do you know if you've got too much melatonin in the morning and you don't have enough cortisol, you can damage your eyes? So exactly. So basically this is part of, the sort of, you've got those fats. It's some, you've probably heard people like Jack Cruz talk about it, about these, either arachidonic acid in other tissue, or the actual DHA that gets dumped out of, your retina. Well, this is what is happening basically, because these are important fats that need to be in there for signaling purposes, and also for a whole lot of other, related purposes. So that would be a long conversation. But, you need to basically, this is why I'm against melatonin supplements, completely against them. They are not a solution to your lack of sleep or to your lack of mitochondrial health. Melatonin should be produced in the mitochondria in a controlled way for the amount that is required it's far more potent, 100 times more than glutathione. It basically, it originates in the mitochondria. Okay? The pineal gland just produces far more and provides repair for the brain, so you don't end up demented and with dementia and Alzheimer's. Okay, that's the only thing it does. That's why it produces so much, because it's a very energetic organ that creates far more ROS, reactive oxygen species. So you need more melatonin to clean all that shit up in the mitochondria, in the brain. Okay, so that's the reason why you've got a specific organ that actually generates even more from its mitochondria. That's important to understand. But you need it to comes down, because otherwise if it's very high, you would suppress neurological functions. You're creating all sorts of issues. That is why people that take melatonin in the daytime, they feel completely rat shit. They're taxing the system. So do not take, even though I know that some Olympic teams, when they go overseas, and how do I know this? Well, my mate, his daughter, was an Olympic athlete as well, and she was a part of the AIS. Never went to Olympic Games, but she went to overseas, international tournaments and all that, in terms of judo. And she basically they gave her melatonin for a couple of days to adjust when they went to another place, which was a different time zone. I mean, nowadays we're a bit smarter and we say, no, we will fast and we'll only eat in the appropriate hours. Like I tell people that are basically a night shift workers, don't eat at night. Only eat in the hours that are in daytime, so your circadian, so you don't get circadian mismatches. So these are important things. Wear blue blocking glasses at night, stuff like that, blah blah blah. So really important to understand these sort of these sort of things. have to be contextualized. So don't do the mistake of taking, you need to fix the mitochondria, and you will learn that from me before, and you will restore proper circadian rhythms. Fucking use your blue blocking glasses at night, please. Get a fucking, if you've got mitochondrial health also problems, do not use red light therapy. It will cause more damage to your engines that are already damaged. You're overloading something that needs to be repaired first before you can take advantage of those things. So really important. We don't do these things. Also, niacin is a no-no. So all these sort of things are a no-no if you've got severe mitochondrial damage. Just a pointer, but more information will be provided eventually. But yeah, non-fucking issue. I have coffee now and then. It's not going to fucking kill you. Let's all get over it.
Speaking of blue blocking glasses, I actually just ordered myself a pair of safety glasses off of Amazon because I found them by accident. They're rated to prevent accidental flashes in work environments from green and blue lasers.
Yes.
And
Same
the rated spectrum that they block is like 10 nanometers different from blue blocks, and they're $15 instead of $200. So I figured I'd order it and see how it does. So next time I'm on stream, I'll have these. Great.
Okay. When this live stream finishes, can you put the link to it?
Sure, I can. Yeah, I can do it right now.
Yeah, great. Yeah. Just put it there so people can go and take a look, because that's another option for people.
Yeah, I figured where it's specifically rated to block green lasers.
Yeah, exactly.
Must do what it says.
Precisely. And also for people that are night shift workers would benefit quite a bit from something like that. Thanks, Jared.
I'll warn you, they're not good looking glasses, but functionally, they would do what you want.
Hey, it's not basically to go out in a fashion parade. Okay, guys?
Here, I'll put it in the main chat, and then I'll also send
yes,
private chat. Although buyer beware, that's a Canadian Amazon link.
So not good to combine with skimpy gear. Doesn't look good.
Oh, Luke. He's not that unhinged. Although he is connecting all the dots. I'll put it in Discord too. Yeah, good idea, Necro. Here, well.
That's me ranting, is it?
That's you connecting all the dots for the conspiracy theory of PUFA.
That's it. There's a rat somewhere here. I need to find the rat.
Oh, it's in the study.
Or up someone's ass. There are people that are very creative with rats.
Someone's cursing, asking if super chats are disabled.
Look, I'm not monetized yet because I still don't have over 1,000 subscribers. So
that's the same for my little channel.
So if you want to help me, really, then try and get more subscribers for me, because YouTube isn't. Fappers with his butter comments.
Yeah, she tried to
so
escape out.
I can see you basically. Somebody actually posed. They pull a gun and they go, "You got two choices. It's either the pussy or the milk." It would be a hard pick for you. Exactly. Yes.
My milk has never broken my window, so
there you go. Another good reason. Yes. I'm not there yet. But, the thought that counts. Yep. Thank you. Thank you for the thought. Oh, maybe I should. Maybe I should at some stage. Look.
But as well, it's free to have, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It is. I just sort of.
Sounds like somebody wants to give you some money.
Yeah, look, exactly. I never did it for that purpose, personally, because I've got my own day job and all that, so that wasn't my focus for doing it. But sometimes I say, well, even my mate says, you put so many hours and stuff like that, you should be getting something back for it. And some of those mates of mine have been saying, because I used to give them a lot of tips, like on investment tips and stuff like that. And I used to spend far more time on sort of stuff like that. And they sort of say to me, well, you could be spending that time to be making more money for yourself. That's true. That is true. I mean, I picked both the previous major crash and the last one. Actually, I was in Indonesia at 2006, and I was basically telling my friends that we're in for another potentially global Armageddon. Or I didn't think it was going to be as bad as 1930, but it was going to be quite severe. And as it was quite severe. It was just basically all that funny money and the bailouts that actually happened in 2008 from the Fed, 2 years later. So I was able to get out before the big crash, and then able to get back in when the crash was over at the bottom end, when stocks had literally tumbled down to 30% or whatever, and was able to double or triple my money. So I was
not
very,
anything because
I was very happy. Yeah, look, I do occasionally, and I've made some, 4 times or 5-fold on some pharmaceutical stuff and whatever. But it takes time to do a lot of the stuff, to look at the information. I mean, I used to go to the nth degree. I'll probably get back into it, but I need the time. I just, sometimes I have occasions where I've taken a whole month off work. I've, leave, and I've basically gone to the tropics, and all I've done is basically investment and nothing else. Because I've picked the right time, and I've just gone really hard on all that. Because I basically get like containerage information, so how many containers are going through different countries, so I look at all energy production, energy use, all the different indicators for manufacturing, trade, and all these sort of things to tell me where things are flowing, what's happening, and all that. So I go into quite a bit of detail, no different than what I do in the nutritional field and stuff like that. Very much the same in those sort of areas. It's just my mindset. That's how I operate. And as a consequence, I'm fine. Life-wise, life hasn't been bad for me in that regard. It just has been a bit on the health side, but that was self-induced with too much seed oil and sugar for most of my life, for large parts of my life. But that was also, I had been brainwashed by the medical establishment, told that was the best food for me. And I used to bag my father, and he's 85 years old and has never had any major health issue. So, yes. So basically, I first adopted his diet, and then slowly transitioned more away from more plants and more to animal products. More. So his was sort of more low carbish in some regards, semi-low carb in a sense. It was sort of a high-fat Mediterranean diet, and then from there I sort of have gravitated all the way to carnivory, which I enjoy. It's actually easy to cook as well. You don't have to go through all that trouble. I can remember literally cutting all those fucking salads day in, day out. Then
You didn't tear it so the lettuce wouldn't rust?
Oh, fuck. I just used to put it on a board, and a chopping board, and I was just cutting more, cutting. I used to make beautiful salads. People loved it because I used to throw nuts in, and I used to throw things like coconut, shredded coconut through it and all that. And I used to create wonderful different flavored type salads, which people used to love. I used to, even at nights when I had my card games, I used to go and play poker with a whole lot of friends. I used to bring the salad and stuff like that, and they used to love that sort of stuff, because it was, full of olive oil with feta cheese, and it was, with, yeah, those were the days anyway. But
you play against your friends for money at cards. I would not play cards against you for money.
Yeah, we played money.
I wouldn't play that game. Not with Harry Serpanos at the table. Not betting against.
Oh, look. So most of the guys are pretty. I mean, they're all highly educated. Quite a few of them, so they're all fucking smart. And they're quite lethal in the way they play. And we pick on each other to try and force others off their game. That's how bad it gets. So come on. You're bluffy, or things like that. Oh, that's bullshit, Harry, all that, I'll just raise again, and I just basically go, oh yeah. I had I was playing up at the Globe Hotel. This is up at in South Hobart, and I literally took out one person after another on the table, and I remember this guy. He tried to force me in. He had a better card set, so I sort of frustrated him. Then I just folded, and then on the next round, I let him think that I wasn't really getting good cards anymore, and so I sucked him in twice. I did that. And he was furious. The second time, he just left his chips head left. He called me a cunt, an arsehole. You play dirty and all this sort of stuff. Oh, for fuck's sake. My mate Sean was sitting next to me. He was just laughing. He said, oh, fuck, you got that cunt? And then I had this other she was a very bright girl, University of Tasmania, one of their really high IQ. I mean, probably higher than mine. She was, really exceptionally smart, and I blew her off the table. Fuck, was she? Because she's a really good player, Tasmanian champion. She was pissed off no end, and I just smiled, sucked her in as well.
Yeah, so I'm not.
I'm an annoying prick when I play poker. I really fucking annoy people deliberately. I fucking make their life a misery. They hate me. I'm one of the most hated players most people play with. Why? Because I deliberately frustrate people. Because that's how I win.
Yeah.
Fuck, get over it. Build a bridge. So yeah, I have my fun.
Luke, don't take that clip out of context.
That's my first one. I still got it. I threw the other ones out.
What is it? I can see it's a poker trophy, but what does it say? Oh,
Oops.
Right.
That was my big first tournament win.
When was it?
Oh, that was years ago. Can't even remember.
I can tell it's a trophy, or it's a poker trophy, but what is it exactly?
Yeah. Well, it was the AAA Poker League. It doesn't exist anymore. The league doesn't exist. So the league's defunct. But, there's a whole lot of others that have replaced it. But at the time, this was my first big tournament win. So I still kept it. I threw all the other stuff out.
Right.
Yeah, well,
you don't need trophies cluttering up themselves.
No, exactly. But I kept the first one. I gave some stuff to Dad, and I had some winnings. Like they had a mat. Dad still got that mat. He actually puts his meal on it. It's a poker mat, and he just puts his meal on it. And I got a poker mat. I got some other gifts and stuff like that. All sorts of, which most of I either gave to Dad or gave to my sisters or whatever else. I didn't want all that shit anyway. But just as I said, clutters too much. I usually go through stages where, like, one when I went overseas, this is a couple of years back, I actually got myself a dumpster and threw half my household out. My mate said, "Are you fucking crazy?" I threw everything. I just said, "Fuck it, I'm not going to store this." I got rid of it all. And I'm a bit like that. I'll get some stuff and then I'll go, "There's too much shit here. Has to go." And I'll just dump the whole lot. Usually if it's clothes or stuff like that. Books, I had a whole lot of university because I had a lot of science books. I had a lot of philosophy, physics, and all sorts of areas. So what I did was I had all these young, this was back in 2006, I think, or 2005. 2006, early 2006. And I was getting rid of that. And then I had all these young, because I had books, really old books. They couldn't believe it. They were literally, they came back a couple of times and took all the books away. And I said, "Yeah, fine, take them." So, because some of them were original books. So yeah, because at the time I was going overseas, I wasn't sure whether I was going to come back to Australia. I was going to go and settle in Greece and sort of move completely over there at the time. I didn't, but that was a bit of a thought. And so I said, "Nah, everything's going. I'm moving." And probably when I move to the tropics, I'll do the same thing. I'll have I'll just basically put the stuff outside, take whatever you like. The rest goes into the bin. So it's, just give it to the community. So sometimes there's where I go walking, this is up in, it's just below Mount Stewart. There's an area, people that know Hobart know, there's actually a house there where they've got, like, where they have books, like a local library, a street library. And so I've been known to go and stick things in there and just gift them, so to speak. So to just get rid of stuff. And I still they've got a couple of things that I do want to take next time up there as well and get rid of those as well. So I do things like that because I don't need them. And I sometimes I try and get ebooks nowadays, and I just keep them in folders, and it's much easier just to flick the ebook, bring it up, or put it on my phone, and so DLNA it back to my phone, turn it back off because I don't want the EMF, so to speak, but just for the transfer purpose or with the USB. And then after that, I can use that method. So, you can end up with too much fucking clutter in life.
That's true. That's true. And you end up with a lot of emotional attachment to that clutter.
Yeah, look, this is the reason why I'm a good investor, because I don't attach myself to things. If I've had a good run with something, it's gone. Mm-hmm. Even homes that, like I literally gutted an entire home and really rebuilt it from scratch, and people were just crazy that I actually sold it. They thought, Harry would keep it because I put so much time in it. But the thing is, for me, I'm a utilitarian. If it's got a use, it's got a use. If it doesn't, it's outlived its purpose. It moves, I move on. So that's what I do. So yeah, I've got a friend that is New South Wales in Sydney. Very smart bloke, very high IQ. Well, extremely high IQ anyway. Bright bloke. But it's a clutter in his place. He's just a hoarder. So even his brother's given up, so. And he spends most of his time in his brother's accounting firm because he used to basically work in IT. So, but he's retired now, so he doesn't, he's fine financially. He's fine, but he's just, he's very possessive of his stuff, his toys and stuff like that, and things. I sort of start accumulating, and then I realize there's just too much shit around it. I have to get rid of it. It's because it's starting to crowd my space. It's just me.
For me, it would stress me financially to feel like I could let go of those things, feeling confident that I'll be able to get them again or get what I need again.
Okay. It doesn't affect me in that way. Maybe because I'm a bit more comfortable, and that may be a reason. I don't know. Maybe. in that regard. Maybe because as a youngster, my mother used to buy me stuff and I used to rip it apart, try to work out how it works. So none of my toys survived. And I never was able to basically reconstruct them and put them back together because they're a factory product, so you can never really put them back. But
I had a few experiences like that as a kid. I remember breaking some toys.
Yes, but I was an inquisitive child. I always wanted to know how things fucking work. And that's why I used to pull things apart, to the chagrin of my mother and father, who at some stage gave up. Cooking. And I wonder. Cassie morphine. We don't have any vegan eyes. What about the vegan eyes? They're just as basically fucking crazy as the rest of them.
It would make them too scary.
Oh, yeah, okay. We don't want to scare the children. Yep, fine. Yeah, I understand. Sorry, young ones. Yes. What are you?
Well, it's just about midnight where I am, so I think I should tap out soon.
Yeah, look, we've got about half an hour to go, 35 minutes to go in that regard. And yeah, corona apocalypse. Oh, look, we're all heading for another crisis. The reality is we are so over debt in terms of private debt. It's not public debt, guys. You need to get over it. Governments can always tax. Governments can always cut services. Governments can always go to war and steal somebody else's wealth. Governments can do all sorts of things. The US after the Second World War put the top marginal rate was 93%. They were able to bring a debt to GDP of 244% of GDP. Remember, the US isn't at 244%, so slightly over 100. It was at 244%. Had the war continued on, they would have struggled to sell more government bonds at the time. They had to have all these massive campaigns to be able to sell more debt, because that's how high. It was the highest level the US has ever been in its history. But then with the top marginal rate of tax up there, but what recovered the US economy? It wasn't the high tax on the rich, which helped for other reasons because it crowded out. It prevented the rich from crowding out the middle class. And the middle class were able to get more bang for their buck because asset prices were low. They didn't have the speculators competing on those asset prices because they were paying off the debt, which they benefited from the Second World War from investing in all these bonds. So the government basically, to pay off all these bondholders, basically taxed them. Very smart strategy that the Roosevelt, that's what I would have done as well. But we had the longest, what are called the golden years of capitalism. Why? Because it basically brought the growth of the middle class. Why? Because the fat cats were squeezed out. They had a less presence in the market to basically inflate asset prices. So somebody could buy a house with a couple of years of wages. Somebody could buy a car, whatever. So what happened? Because people, after the Depression and the Second World War, most of private debt, that means household debt, basically went to zero. So most families had very little debt or no debt. So they then had this consumer economy that was built, and the government invested in infrastructure and all that from the tax dollars that it was getting, so it could lift productivity of the country, so it could bring down the cost of the production of goods and services. And as a consequence, you had this boom time and the big growth of the middle classes. And the big growth of the middle classes stopped when Reaganomics came in and Thatcherism, which basically tore that whole regulated system and basically allowed the fat cats again to crowd out everybody and dominate the economy. Because today we have monopoly capitalism. See, traditional Adam Smith capitalism right back in those days was very small. You had an industry here, but because of lack of infrastructure, roads, or sufficient stuff, you couldn't really compete on nation base. So you had very much smaller businesses, sized business, that can compete. In such a capitalist system, you can really get really good, sort of competition, and also you can have reasonable, basically, where you don't have massive, wealth differences. But once you move into a monopoly based where people grow into the Googles or whatever, in that sort of thing, and they dominate the market, they squeeze everybody out, and they turn everybody into a rentier society because they can hold all the credit, all the money. They can inflate asset prices, squeeze everyone out, and then when it falls down, they can buy it back off everyone else that's been busted out of the system. And that is where we're heading, to a rentier society. We need to bring antitrust laws in. I believe
that's where you're going. Sorry.
Exactly. I believe in the market setting the pricing. That I believe in. I don't believe that government should be setting prices at all. But what they should be doing is regulating and preventing monopolization, which prevents competition and increasing productivity and crony corrupt capitalism to take place. And that's what we have today. We have crony capitalism, corrupt capitalism, where what happens is all these fat cats with their pollies, the politicians, are basically gouging the system and lowering the regulation. But what are they doing? They're putting regulation on us. I believe in social freedoms for us as humans to be able to express our ideas the way we want, to have our freedom to be able to move around and express our views. What are they doing? They're restricting those rights, but they're liberating the fat cats to be able to screw everyone and monopolize the economy even more. I don't believe in economic freedom. I believe in a regulated economy that prevents the fat cats from gouging the system. So then you can have good productivity, good competition in the marketplace, which can bring innovation and all sorts of other things. It's the reason why we haven't gone to the stars. It's the reason why we haven't done a lot of things. It's the reason why we don't even produce hypersonic stuff or whatever, or all sorts of other technologies. Our innovation has declined. All we do is just regurgitating the same old products in a different fashion. And it's a fashionable. We're selling fashion. Even the Roman Empire, towards the end of its decline, what became most fashionable in the Roman Empire? Social things like social media type things, where you had these orators and, sitting around on pulpits telling people, their own bullshit. And then the other thing you had basically was, things like the gladiatorial games, no different than The Big Loser, all these sort of things, these reality shows. That's what you had. Reality shows are gladiatorial games, are the modern version. And the other thing that you had also is cooks. Cooks became the most prominent, big venerated characters in a corrupt society, because a corrupt society, the institutions no longer in innovation or trying to improve things and all that, like they were in the past. They were trying to make a world that worked better and stuff like that. Those people go away. You get all these corrupt crony capitalism. What they do is they will basically they'll give you the gladiatorial games, the modern ones, which reality shows. They'll basically, so you can sit in front of the, eating their kibble while you're watching that shit. And then they'll basically put all these other stuff out there, like all these cooks and all that. Nobody's become basically famous. And that is basically when you know that they've got they can't produce any new stuff. They can't produce any new Einsteins. They can't produce anything. The whole science has been corrupted because basically it works for the food industry or works for this business or that business. There's no independence anymore. It's best to tax and have independently research stuff like we had in the past. University did their own research because they got government money, but there was no private involvement at all, So they got the benefits of that knowledge, and everybody got the benefit of that knowledge. It wasn't one fat cat able to grab that, but everybody had the licensing rights to use it and then create their own products from it. That's how it is. That's how you get much better things. Most of the stuff in your iPhone, most of the stuff there, the technologies in there were actually either developed by DARPA or universities around the world, the research. I mean, Our CSIRO, our government research institution, is one of the critical components of the Wi-Fi networks, was developed here in Australia. And that's what we still get royalties. The government still gets royalties for those innovations in Wi-Fi. So the reality is they don't create any new technologies, the fat cats. What they do is the universities and public money creates this, and then they siphon it off and create products. Do you understand the difference? That is why when government lowers its level of investment in R&D, what happens is you get all these little incremental improvements. You don't get great innovations like we got in the past. That's what happens in crony capitalism. And the thing is, they don't want great innovations. You know why? Because they just want to regurgitate the same shit over and over again using their stars and their little agents or their little promoters, like some actor or some fucktard that was on the big loser or the big shit program of this or whatever, to sell you the same shit in a different outfit the next year, so they can keep the bullshit going as long as possible, so you can still buy their same shit with a few incremental improvements. And that's the whole idea, to keep you as a consumer, to keep you in debt, so they can still gouge the system. So, and they want to make everything important assets like homes, companies, shares and other things more expensive for you guys, to keep you guys out, while they basically, force you to basically consume credit and whatever else. And basically you're turning yourself into an indentured servant of these corporations. Now they've even got you on social media making them products, and they monetize, and then they fuck you over. And that's why Bart's so pissed off. So this is the problem. We're in a state of crony capitalism. There are no real traditional, you need to regulate a market to prevent crony capitalism, to prevent monopolization, to prevent people gouging the system, to allow innovation, to allow things. You take a look at Israel, for instance. Government went in there and actually put money to develop their IT sector. And now they've spun off a massive IT sector that's creating all sorts of innovations. The new lasers that they've actually developed are actually better than the American ones. The US military is actually looking at Israeli lasers because they're fucking better, because this smaller company that basically innovated and created a new laser where it can create a coherent sort of beam, even through cloud sort of cover and all that. Great innovation. But that's because there were venture capital. They couldn't get venture capital like you can with a lot of investors in Silicon Valley. So what did they do? They created their own Silicon Valley version, and the government had put the seed money in. They were willing to take the risk and put the seed money to create innovation, small companies, and create innovation. They weren't willing to look after just the fat cats. That's the problem that we're facing in a lot of parts of the world. You go to Germany, it's all the fat cats that are basically looked after. The whole reason why they created the European Union was to look after the industrial fat cats of Germany and France, okay, and get everybody else in the European Union to buy their products. You went to Greece in the 80s, there was more Toyotas and stuff like that. I went back in 2006 and everything was German. Mercedes, BMWs, German fridges, German appliances, German everything. On credit, obviously. So wake up to yourselves, guys. Really wake up to yourselves. The world isn't, it's a funny place in that regard. But for me,
a lot of people understand that they don't know where to act.
That's it. That's true. That is true. I mean, my ultimate belief is to move towards a world where I've gone through all the isms. I was a young radical myself, and I've gone through all the isms. I've seen all these social movements and stuff like that in the past, in the 80s and all that. So I'm not old. In the 70s and 80s, because I was involved heavily in that political sort of realm. I even wrote for magazines and book, stuff like that. I did things like that. I was involved in organizations, student politics and all sorts of things. I've seen it fucking all just repeat over and over again in many regards. So I'm not old to this. And what I've realized is that when you're stuck in this, in their sort of setup, you're basically part of that ism. And as long as you're part of that ism, you know, where a direct democracy is also a very different animal. A direct democracy requires the citizenry to take responsibility. That means you're going to become a fucking soldier, whether you fucking like it or not, a citizen soldier, to defend it, like they do in Switzerland. You know, everybody has to. You not only be citizen, but also a responsible citizen in the society. That means to participate in politics, to get involved in politics, to make sure that things are done right at the local level and national level and stuff like that. That is what a true citizen is. Otherwise, you're just fucking a deadbeat, as far as I'm concerned. People say, oh, I don't like politics. I say, well, fuck off and go to Africa, take an AK-47 and fight off every other fucking cunt, because they don't like politics as well. They just want to use the barrel of the gun to take power, you know, if that's what you don't like. My ancestors understood that the thing that differentiates humans from animals is we are political creatures. Even the chimps have their own political, they all organize and fight. They actually undertake warfare like us, or tribalism and stuff like that. Why? Because they are common genes. That is what defines us. We are political animals. And when we basically hand over that to a whole lot of fat cats, they will basically corrupt it to their own ends. And that's what's happened throughout history. For millions and millions of years, we lived in a collective type where we had direct control over our lives with our other tribal friends. Then we created class societies where we created the kings and all these elites through histories of years. Yes, it brought us modern civilization, but it also basically made us their bitches forever for the last 10,000 years. Now, if you want to be a bitch, fine. I don't want to be a bitch but unfortunately, I cannot make that choice for anyone or change my reality on my own. But the thing is, at the same time, I don't want to jump into any political movement or party, because most of these parties they work within, whether it's within the Soviet system or within the Chinese system or within the American system or whatever, they work within that. They don't want the average person to become more educated, to become more responsible and active citizen, because they don't want you to they want you to be brainless and mindless, to buy what they want you to buy, to do what you're told to do, to basically be their servant, because that is what they think you are, that you're just a cog in their machine, a simple fucking cog that they can push around, they can screw whenever they like, and they can discard at their whim. And that is how, since the pharaohs, the whole society has been worked. I don't give a shit whether you're a left wing or right wing. I look at all the isms as just as bad as each other in many regards. I believe in a popular movement to basically bring direct democracy and a much more, the economic system, that will be up to society to determine the best and try different types and different forms and all that. I think we could transition to more a collective-based system where you've got the robots doing all the work, where we don't have to do any work and we can philosophize and run the society and be responsible citizens, go out and explore space and do a whole lot of other things. I don't think we can do it right now. And I think we would need a market-based system initially, and then we'd have to transition to such a sort of like a Star Trek society. And that would probably take 100, 200, maybe 300 or 400 years from now. But we would be in command of our own destinies, our societies. We would no longer have a small group of less than 1% elites telling us how to live our lives. So, and the thing is, such a world would be a much better place. And you know what? If you were to ask people to basically go and slaughter another population over there, they probably wouldn't. They'd say, no. Why? What is it? There's nothing in it for me. But somebody that wants to sell a whole lot of tanks, a whole lot of aircraft and whatever else, and take you as cannon fodder to throw you in there, well, that senator or that whatever basically sits nice and makes sure his son doesn't go out there and die or gets in harm's way because he's not a citizen soldier. So it's a professional army. They get a whole lot of poor people that basically can't have jobs, so they use them as cannon fodder, or they tell you, like the Romans did, if you basically want to become a Roman citizen, come and fight for us. They say to Mexicans and people like that, you can become, but you can, if you survive, we'll give you a citizenship. If you don't, tough luck. This is how they use people. You're basically used as cogs and cannon fodder. They fucking don't give a shit about you. I know rich people, believe me, some of my friends, and they don't really think much about the average person, poor people. I can tell you. I've heard things and I'm, God. They are quite vile. If you think that, people like Bill Gates cares for you, God. They basically got too much fucking money. They don't know what to do with it. They go, oh, what could I jump into? Oh, I'll do this thing. And then they also want to control it because they're control freaks. It's their nature. They've always been control freaks within their own businesses. And so, they start interfering in these organizations, trying to take control and try to push their own agendas. And this is the problem with these people. And usually they have no fucking idea what they're talking about because it's not as if the people that have run that organization for years probably know more about that subject matter than these people. They may not be perfect, but at least they know more than these idiots. So yeah, they sort of give me the shits no end. But it'll be beyond my lifetime before we see direct democracy in a better world where the commoners basically run the show. So I hope it comes earlier, but I sort of somehow doubt it, honestly. Is there any more? Did he?
Okay, Harry, I need to go to bed.
Fair enough. If you need to get to bed. This one's actually... I'll put that on. Another one of Luke's. Oops.
What did it say? I couldn't hear it.
Basically, he had a piece of fruit. I've been 100% since then. Blah blah blah. And as I go,
I can't hear the audio.
It's a sort of a comical thing. It's a contradiction in terms. You just increase the sugar. Luke. I think that was the joke.
Out of context comments.
Yeah, sort of thing. Like the vegans do. They're very good at that sort of stuff. They literally deliberately misdirect and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, fuck. I had a bit of a rant today, didn't I?
I was going to go to bed about half an hour ago.
Yes, yes.
Thank you as always, Harry.
It's your fault, Eleanor. You got me going.
Thanks for having me, Harry.
Yeah, I appreciate it, mate. Yeah.
Good to see everybody here this evening as well. And
do appreciate you coming on, mate. As always, so good value.
Thanks for having me. Yeah, I need to start investing so I can pretend like I'm not just gambling my money.
So you got to have a bit of fun. I mean, nowadays it's usually a lot like a $10 bet for each. So it's a sort of that's what the buy-in is. So you buy in at 10. If you get knocked out, you can buy in again if you want to. I never do. I haven't gone to the recent games anyway. But it's just sort of, it's more, we'll probably have about 4 games, maybe 5 games a night, and it's more for bragging rights and stuff like that. So than anything else, a lot of banter. bit of food, a bit of a food break in between as well, like an evening meal. So it's usually after the first, so it's not too late, the meal. So the first match, and then we'll have basically a meal. And then, usually if I go with my mate Sean, usually tends to be 3 or maybe 4. We may stay. The other guys are still fucking there playing, and it's in we usually go up to a rural area in the north, like in Brighton, because a mate of mine, he's got a farm up there. It's the guy that I get all the lamb from. So he's the accountant as well. He works as an accountant in the city. He's a manager as an accountant, but he's got his own farm as well. He's a very, very bright, he basically one of his on I can't remember, it was some sort of, it's really complex accounting mathematics, and he got one of the highest marks at the time. He literally pushed the average so high because he got such a high mark that he literally, a lot of people failed that subject that year, or that semester. They really hated Andrew for that. For doing that to them. So yeah, quite cluey guys. So it's not easy playing against them, because they're pretty, they are quite, they got brain power to basically put behind, and they're pretty good at bluffing as well. So but it's a good challenge in that regard. So we have fun. We have fun picking on each other as well. So it's it's a bit of the banter as it goes. You got to pass your time somehow.
I meant that investing in the market without understanding what I'm doing is effectively just gambling.
Well, yes, it is. Yes, that is definitely. I would not invest.
I was just sort of ridiculing people who invest thinking they understand more than they do, and telling themselves that they're not just gambling, which is most people I've ever known have ever invested.
Most people gamble. Most people are gambling in the market. I see people use it like exotics, exotic type things like derivatives and stuff like that. Very highly speculative, especially when the market is really starting to go out of its way. And these people get cleaned out because they're not as experienced. Because at that level, when you're speculating at that level, you're actually competing not against humans, but against AIs in high frequency trading, and you get squashed most of the time. So that's why you get all the majority of the stuff. The quick rich schemes don't work, and everybody jumps on them. All that. Really, you need to look at solid companies that are undervalued at different points in time, and you should look at the long-term game as an investor. That's a smart thing to do. When credit is cheap and there are undervalued at the moment, they're not. They've really ballooned out of proportion in terms of their valuation and their return on investment. So as a quick, when there's a rally, jump in, jump out type of approach in the same day and make, let's say 5% here or there. Yep, that's fine. Doing something like that. But I wouldn't basically stay in these sort of short-term rallies, because they're just so unpredictable. You got to be very careful. So jump into when you see a rally, jump in, jump out. When you've made your 3-5%, don't get too greedy and jump out. But you really need to have researched the specific, and I usually say to people, specialize in specific areas of the stock market. Like I do pharmaceuticals and certain other things. I've done, resource companies in the past when there was a mining boom and all that. So I specialize in certain things. Before lithium took off, I said to people, that's where you need to be putting your money. You're going to be doubling or tripling your money in lithium, because you basically get the electric cars, the new high rechargeable electric cars won't take off yet. I think there's still a bit of growth in lithium, and the simple reason is that nobody's going to sit there for hours recharging. If you want to change the transportation system, you need to quick recharge. Now, there are 2 batteries that are actually competing. There's one in Australia that was developed by CSIRO, which is traditional battery technology, which can recharge to 70% within about 3 to 4 minutes. That's as much as, pumping oil into your vehicle. There's also the university in, what's the one in Singapore? I forget what it's called. They've got a new style, which is basically based on lithium to ion batteries, which they can also recharge in, I think now they're maybe even under 3 minutes to the majority of 70 or 80%. So there are still manufacturing problems, teething problems that are being worked out. But in the next couple of years, these will hit the market. And when they hit the market, these batteries, they will be game changers. Like the internal combustion engine was back in Henry Ford's day, was a game changer and literally displaced everything. You look at old photos of New York, and 2 or 3 years later, it's completely different. There's no horse and cart. There's no nothing. It's all cars. It's a completely different ballgame, And so that's how quick the market can change. If you get economies of scale and you get the certain technologies that mature to a certain level. That's what's about to happen, and it's not too far away when it comes to the electric vehicles and stuff like that. Whether Tesla will be around or not may not be, may be outcompeted by other players, is unsure about that. And so I don't stick to one player or specific. I focus on the industry and then focus on the key components of that industry. So if I'm looking at, the mining sector, I'm looking at what are the best priced players in that sector. So I'll position myself there, because to produce these, you still need the commodity. So these are the sort of ways that I look at things. Rather, everybody looks at all this sort of what I call the trendy stuff, or the pig with the pig with the actual lipstick on it. Where I'm looking at basically the average porker and what the potential of that porker, I'm looking at it very differently, because I usually have a long-term perspective on things as well, because I believe in building things, not basically speculation is, let's say, it's luck, it's gambling. That's what it is. Yeah. And if you've got money to gamble or crowd other people out, like George Soros was able to, take on the Bank of England with a lot of credit. But, the rest of us small players don't have that capacity to play those games. So if you play those games, you'll get squashed. And most people that go in usually play those games because these people have got far better knowledge, far better researchers, far better sort of especially high frequency traders. What they do is they literally go right next to the stock exchanges around the world, and they actually rent or purchase buildings right next to those, to the closest to that stock exchange, to the closest telephone exchange. Why?
Terry, I need to stop you. I have to go.
Go. Yeah. Take care, mate.
Not that I don't appreciate
your
insight on geopolitical events and financial markets.
Take care.
I genuinely do find it interesting. I just am fading.
Get to sleep. Yeah. It's after 12. You need your beauty sleep. I can't have you deteriorating on this, and really pulling down the channel and putting us into disrepute.
Yeah.
See you, mate. I appreciate staying. Take care.
Yep. See you next week.
See you, mate. Well, back to me. You poor fucks. Back to the bad boy. I'll have to take a more active persona now that Bald Man Bad is gone. Yeah, well, within reason. She's got crazy eyes, yes. Have you seen what she's been doing to her mother recently? She's slowly killing that poor woman with her, vegetarian diet. Yes. Exactly, it does. That's why it was called the golden years of capitalism through the 50s and 60s, because it crowded out the big fat cats, you know? So, I mean, Australia didn't have as high. I mean, Australia had, you didn't need to go that high. In Australia, its top marginal rate was 67%. And still, we had a big boom of the middle classes here. The only reason why the US went that high is because they wanted to pay off all their government debts, because they had massive war debts. That's why they did it. I mean, it was but you didn't have to go that high. Especially in a smaller economy, you can't really go that high. You still need to get some foreign investment, differentiate your economy from other economies in that regard. But when everybody goes to the lowest common denominator, it just screws everyone. It decimates the middle classes. And that's what's happened globally since that whole system, Bretton Woods system, broke up, was completely pulled apart. And, it created a new round of monopoly capitalism. And when you get this sort of monopoly capitalism, it really stomps on innovation. It crowds out. I mean, just take the Googles of the world. They just buy everything up. They've got so much cash they're sitting on, and they can acquire cheap credit, and they can just crowd out everybody. And so you don't get any other competitive innovations in the economy. They are it, and they are the holders of the keys, and they control everyone. And that's wrong, because that's a problem, in society. That really reduces freedom and really undermines our ability to basically do new things, So we end up with this sort of crony capitalism, like the end of the Roman Empire, with all the senators became so corrupt with the rich, they literally took control of everything. And all they did was give people gladiatorial games and a whole lot of cooks to tell them how to make new spices and new meals and all that, because they had nothing else to offer. When you see that sort of level of degeneracy, is because they've got nothing else to offer. So they basically need to have you in front as a spectator, and that's how they treat you. It's called a TV nowadays, but it's the same thing. And they basically have you there eating away the kibble and watching their garbage. And it works, unfortunately, because most people have got too many of their own family problems and all that to really think about these things in any deep way. And most people that can tell them that they're being screwed and they're being lied to and all that are not heard. So, yes, it's unfortunately. Thanks, mate. Yeah, look, I appreciate everyone that turns up and, in that regard. I've got no idea. That'd be an interesting question, Richard, whether has or not. It'd be interesting. But, these are the sort of people that we have to deal with. These are the people that want basically the 1984 George Orwell type world. They want to take all our freedoms away. I mean, have you heard there was some bloody lawyer, and she's a vegan lawyer, and she wants to basically make it a criminal offense to eat meat. These people want to really strip our rights away, and they are becoming a big popular movement backed up by people like George Soros and all these people, by big money, is because they've come to the end of their empire. It's all sort of, decaying. It's all corrupted, all that. So they need a popular movement like the vegan movement to brainwash all these other fuckwits out there to basically fall into line into the new kibble culture. And, we can give you funny money. We can do all sorts of shit. We'll give you your new iPhone every year and all this. Just eat this crap. Don't think too much. We're looking after it all and all that. And this is the problem that's happening. They are as I've been calling them for ages, the fifth column of the food industry, the fifth column of the elite. That is what they are. These people are really evil. They hate humanity. They want to enslave humanity. They basically want to be the fat cats on top, and but they're deluded. They're being used as well. They're an instrument. They are an instrument by others that want to use them to basically control our society, and that's where the problem lies. but they're a very vocal minority and very well organized and funded minority. You know, you just have to look at some of the characters. They turn up and they get paid, you know, and some of this is coming out like, you know, Joey Carbstrong and all these sort of people. They turn up and, you know, they're like celebrities and they get invited to all these special events of these powerful elites or, you know, places like Harvard or whatever. How come some nobody on YouTube? Because they are part of all that structure. It's all about the disinformation. It's all about, you know, keep basically people focused on fighting each other and basically focused on all these other minor stupid issues. We're not focused on the decimation of our economy. We're not focused on that we've been screwed for the last 4 or 5 decades on food, on you know, economic policy and a whole lot of other things. We've, as middle class, we've seen the erosion of our incomes, our lifestyle, our quality of life. All these things have basically gone to shit. And basically, we've been told, you know, don't worry, you know, you can have your new fucking iPhone, get more debt, you know, and all this. And these people are basically telling us these are the problems, the animals or this or that or whatever. These financial, oh, don't worry about this. It's being taken care of. That's what we've got, the expert looking after that. And that's the problem. You know, we're in the past, you know, people like Eisenhower, people like, you know, and we're talking about both sides of the party, you know, in that regard, Roosevelt and others, they understood this. They understood the danger of these elites to basically literally, you know, control the society so much that, you know, you get this sort of crony, corrupt type capitalism, you know, and that's what we've got now. We're really in the, you know, in a very dangerous place. You don't even have independent public service anymore. You know, it's all corrupted. You know, all the leadership is basically all political appointees. It's not basically best people. It's just basically people that basically will lick each minister's ass. You know, it's the way it works. You know, if you want to get ahead, learn to lick. If you're not good at being on all fours and able to lick, you're not going to get very far anymore. It's just the way of the world. But we can stop this if we basically call out the bullshit and demand a change to weigh things out, greater accountability. We need greater accountability at the federal level of my society or other societies. We need basically, you know, where there are independent bodies that can scrutinize these people. You know, this sort of national security bullshit is bullshit. You know, they've literally put everything under that. Not everything has to be under that. It wasn't in the past. Why is it now? You know, it's deliberate. It's because they're using things and most people go, oh, yeah, oh, we're fighting the terrorists. Yeah, that's one thing. Why all these other things also under the same umbrella? Wake up. But when you're being fed kibble all day and shit on the, you know, your big brother shit on the media, well, you're not going to think about these things. And they'll keep on basically, I'll sort you out. Yes, unfortunately, you know. Anyway, we had plenty of rants today. We haven't really spoken too much about health, unfortunately. Sorry about that. We will do that next week. I'll be less involved in my rants in that regard. But, you know, try and, you know, because there's probably questions people want to ask and they want to find out information in that regard. So, yes, I do apologize to those people. Please just put comments if you want to ask in a specific thing that's ailing you, or email me. And when I get a chance to get around, I'll get around to it. Appreciate all you guys. We're above the 3 hours, and I have to be very careful with my StreamYard. Sort of, I get my 20-hour quota. I can't really overextend it. So we will basically get back to it next week. Have fun. Next week will also be the Eurasia one as well. So that'll be the other part. So that'll be in the evenings for my UK friends and others throughout the Eurasian region. Anyway, thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Take care. Have a good day, whether part of the day or the rest of the day or whatever. And hope to see most of you, or even more of you, next week. Anyway, see you guys. And the hair will get the snip.